Chapter 1024. The moment Hua Yun saw Yun Jian, she was stunned. At this moment, Hua Yun was surrounded by more than 10 bodyguards. She looked like a typical rich person. Hua Yun was holding the hand of a boy who was about the same age as Xiao Yunju. It was not hard to tell that the boy was the child of Hua Yun and her current husband, Hu Chaochuan. Hua Yun's current husband was ugly. Therefore, even though Hua Yun was good-looking, the boy she was holding the hand of took after her current husband, Hu Chaochuan. He had a flat nose, a round face, and even his hair was a little bald. It had to be said that the boy was extremely ugly. However, he was dressed in branded clothes. It was obvious that he was a rich man's son. When Hua Yun saw Yun Jian in CE with Xiao Yunju and the other two, she was stunned. Hua Yun remembered how Yun Jian had insulted her the last time. Last time, Yun Jian had called her a cheap woman. She had said that she and her current husband, Hu Chaochuan, were dogs and meows. Hua Yun had been waiting for the last time. When Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian got married, she wanted to go to the wedding and show off how sweet and beautiful her life was now. Especially now that her identity was different from before. Her husband's uncle was an international business tycoon. Even in the entire world, his status was extraordinary. There was no need to mention it. This was because Hua Yun believed that a person like Yun Jian would never be able to reach that level. Of course, her husband, Hu Chaochuan, was an example. Hu Chaochuan had followed his uncle and had become an international tycoon. For example, her husband was one of the investors of the amusement park today. That was why Hua Yun was here. It could be said that Hua Yun's son was on vacation these few days. Therefore, Hua Yun had been wandering around the amusement park with her son. As she was wandering around, she bumped into Yun Jian. Hua Yun thought that Yun Jian wouldn't come to the amusement park just to mock her, right? Therefore, Hua Yun held her son, Hu Qixiang's hand and walked over with big steps. After all, Hua Yun was from a wealthy family. After marrying Hu Chaochuan, she felt that her husband was very powerful. Therefore, she valued her cultivation even more. Hua Yun walked over and looked down at Yun Jian. She was wearing a pair of high heels, so she looked much taller than Yun Jian. "I can't believe you guys are here." Hua Yun spoke as if Yun Jian and the others were not supposed to be here. "If you can come, why can't I?" Yun Jian was not the kind of person who would run away. She looked straight at Hua Yun. Hua Yun was slightly taller than Yun Jian. Now that she was wearing high heels, it could be said that Hua Yun was looking down at Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian stood on the same spot. She did not look up at Hua Yun. Instead, she looked straight at Hua Yun, who was a few meters away. In terms of aura, even though Hua Yun's height was slightly taller than Yun Jian, who was wearing flat shoes, Yun Jian was stronger than Hua Yun in terms of aura and behavior. It was also because of this that Hua Yun hated Yun Jian even more. "Because this is my house. Mom doesn't like you guys coming here. I don't like you guys coming here either. So get out of my house." When Hua Yun wanted to say something, her son with a flat nose, Hu Qixiang, who was holding her hand, took the right to speak. As soon as Hu Qixiang spoke, Yun Jian felt it. He was a typical example of being spoiled by Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan. Chapter 1025. Hu Qixiang had been instilled with the idea that his father was very powerful since he was young. Before he came to the amusement park, Hu Qixiang already knew that his father was one of the investors here. He was only one of the investors, but in Hu Qixiang's mind, this amusement park belonged to his father. Everything here belonged to his family. He could decide who could come and who could not. Even the people who bought tickets to enter could scram out of here if they made him unhappy. That was the idea that Hua Yun instilled in Hu Qixiang. Hua Yun thought the same way too. Although Hu Chaochuan was only one of the investors here, Hua Yun felt that everything here belonged to her family. With such thoughts in mind, Hua Yun often wandered around here when she had nothing to do. She felt that she was superior to everyone else as long as she stood here. This feeling drove Hua Yun crazy. "Give it to me," Yun Jian only smiled contemptuously. She did not want to fight for anything. Instead, she reached out her hand to Hua Yun. "What?" Hua Yun was shocked by Yun Jian's action. She felt that her son, Hu Qixiang, was especially cool when he told Yun Jian to get out of here because this was her family's territory. He was indeed her son. He knew how to help his mother deal with bad people. "Refund the tickets." It's the tickets for the 5 of us. Didn't you want us to leave? We were kicked out before we finished playing. Of course, you have to give us a refund. Yunjian did not care about other things. Instead, she reached out her hand and asked Hua Yun to give her a refund. Hua Yun was shocked by Yunjian's action. Wasn't Yunjian very domineering before? How come today? Why should I give you guys a refund? Hua Yun was infuriated by Yunjian's bluff. Hua Yun did not lack Yunjian's ticket money. In fact, the ticket money was nothing to Hua Yun. It was no different from the dust on the ground. However, if Hua Yun really refunded Yunjian's ticket money on the spot, wouldn't it be very embarrassing? Because we bought tickets and we haven't had enough fun yet. If you want us to leave, of course we'll ask for a refund, Yunjian said smoothly. But since you can't give us a refund, we can only continue with the game, Yunjian continued without waiting for Hua Yun to speak. At this point, Yunjian called out to Xiao Yunzhu, Duan Li, and Duan Ya. Xiao Zhu, you 3 follow Ce Gij to the boat first. Ce didn't appear, but he was watching everything that was happening in front of him. He knew that there were some things that Yunjian could solve by herself. If she couldn't solve it cleanly, then he would come and clean it up. Ce quickly grabbed Xiao Yunzhu and the other 2 as if they were chickens and entered the pedal boat. Heh, Qixiong, let's go. Hua Yun knew that she could not argue with Yunjian. She gritted her teeth in anger, but after considering her appearance, she dragged Hu Qixiong away. Just you wait. It was going to be Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding soon. At that time, she, Hua Yun, would show Yunjian how rich she was. Compared to her, Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru's family wealth was nothing. Hua Yun wanted to show off at Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru's wedding. She also wanted her ex-husband to see that the husband she found now was not only richer than him, but more importantly, he also knew how to dote on her. Chapter 10:26. Just as they got on the boat, Yunzhu and Duanli snatched the pedals with their tiny feet and stepped on them, having a great time. Ce's long legs were pressed against Xiao Yunzhu's. Just as he carried Xiao Yunzhu and the other 2 onto the boat, Yunjian nimbly walked into the boat from the shore. Since Hua Yun had left on her own, Yunjian naturally did not ask her to stay, nor did she say anything. Because it was not the right time yet, she would let Hua Yun be smug for a few more days. Yunjian would never let anyone who belittled her mother off the hook. Reality had proven that Hua Yun had successfully angered her. As for the next step, she would make Hua Yun pay the price for angering her. Of course, Yunjian planned to give Hua Yun a heavy blow while preparing a grand wedding for Qin Yiru. Just as Yunjian thought of this, she had already stepped on the pedals and walked into the boat. The boat was not big and could only seat 4 people. They sat opposite each other in pairs. Xiao Yunzhu, Duan Li, and Duan Li each took 3 seats. Xiao Yunzhu and Duan Li sat opposite each other, while Duan Ya sat beside Ce. When Yunjian walked in, there were no more seats. Xiao Ya, let me carry you. When Yunjian saw this, she planned to walk towards Duan Ya. She even reached out her hand as she spoke. When Yunjian walked in, she happened to pass by Ce. Just as she reached out her hand to carry Duan Ya to sit on her lap, Ce suddenly reached out and pulled Yunjian over. When Yunjian was scooped up by Ce like that, the force of his scooping was strong because she was standing in the corridor. It was as if he brought her over directly. Hence, when Yunjian was pulled over, she lost her balance and sat on Ce's lap. Yunjian was suddenly pulled onto Ce's lap. Her butt was suddenly pressed against Ce. At that moment, she could even feel a certain part of Ce's body expanding and pressing against her indescribable part. Yunjian's face flushed red, especially when Xiao Yunzhu and the other 2 were still having fun and did not notice what was happening. It felt as if she was having an affair with Ce. Xiao Yunzhu and the other 2 were having fun stepping on the pedals and did not notice the shocking scene of Yunjian sitting on Ce's lap. In front of the 3 children, Yunjian was blushing. She struggled but was held down by Ce. When Yunjian struggled, a certain part of the girl's body was pressed against a certain part of his, rubbing left and right. Ce nearly could not hold himself back. Xiao Jian, don't move. Ce's fair and slender hand was placed on Yunjian's beautiful thighs. Yunjian was wearing a pair of shorts that ended just below her knees today. Due to the hot weather, her pants were thin. Ce's hand was on her thighs and a certain part of his body was pressed against her. Yun Jian felt like she had never encountered anything more exciting than today in her entire life. Especially when there were 3 little kids playing around them. When they got off the boat, Yun Jian's legs were still trembling. She admitted that she did not struggle when they were on the boat just now, but she dared not exert all her weight on Siyi's thighs. Especially when her lower body was pressed against him. It was almost 7 in the evening when they got off the boat. Yun Jian planned to bring Xiao Yunju and the other 2 home. Just as they stepped out of the amusement park, Yun Jian saw that Ce had sent a Mo Sen to pick them up. Once they were in the car, Yun Jian saw Ce calling Snow Eagle. Chapter 10:27. Once Ce was done, Snow Eagle did not know what was going on, but it had always obeyed Ce's orders. Ce hung up right after Shuang agreed. Yun Jian, who was in the car, narrowed her eyes, knowing that Ce was taking revenge for her. Destroying the amusement park's investor shares was the same as destroying the new project that Hua Yun's husband's company had recently launched. It would at least cause Hua Yun's husband to lose a huge sum of money. It was not enough to ruin his reputation, but it would be enough to give him a headache in the near future. Mo Sen drove steadily. Xiao Yunju, Duan Ling Tian, and Duan Ling Tian seemed to be tired from playing in the car. The 3 of them seemed to have infected each other as they dozed off in the car at the same time. Yun Jian knew that the 3 of them must be tired from playing today, so she let Ce help her to rest Xiao Yunju's head while she rested her head on Duan Li and Duan Ya's. When they got home, Yun Jian moved Xiao Yunju, Duan Ling Tian, and Duan Ling Tian back to their respective bedrooms. Yun Jian was exhausted after playing for the entire afternoon and night. It was only 8 o'clock when she got home. Although she had to wake up for school the next day, Yun Jian was in no hurry to sleep. On the other hand, Hua Yun brought her son, Hu Qixiang, home in a huff and shoved her son to the nanny in exasperation. She was so infuriated by Yun Jian that she did not even bother to look at her son as she stomped upstairs. Before Hua Yun entered her husband's study, she heard him talking to someone on his phone. Hu Chaochuan's tone was extreme. "What? Someone important is messing with us. Explain it to me. What do you mean the amusement park plan is going to be ruined? I've invested 1 billion yuan in Longmen City's amusement park. How can it be gone just like that? Find out who did it for me." After shouting his last words, Hu Chaochuan threw his phone away. From the ferocious expression on Hu Chaochuan's face, one could tell that he was in a very bad mood. In 1999, 1 billion was equivalent to half of Hu Chaochuan's family fortune. The project that he had just invested in was suddenly hacked. Moreover, this project had cost all of Hu Chaochuan's efforts. Hu Chaochuan's expression at this moment was simply uglier than if he had eaten dog shit. It was true that Hua Yun was a graceful and elegant woman. However, Hua Yun was not smart. Even though she could see that Hu Chaochuan's face was terrifyingly dark, she still wanted to approach him. "Hubby, what's wrong? Why were you so angry just now?" Hua Yun gently brought a fruit platter from downstairs and leaned over. Just as she walked over and placed the fruit platter in front of Hu Chaochuan pushed it away. The fruits in the fruit platter rolled to the ground and slid far away. Scram! Did I tell you to come up? On the surface, Hu Chaochuan appeared to be very gentle to Hua Yun. However, if he really encountered something difficult, he would simply treat Hua Yun as a punching bag. Hua Yun felt that the only thing she could brag about in this life was marrying a rich husband like Hu Chaochuan. Hua Yun wanted to pretend to be a very virtuous wife in front of Hu Chaochuan, so she went to Hu Chaochuan even after she was scolded. "Chaochuan, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong with your business?" "It's all right. I'm here with you." Before Hua Yun could finish her sentence, Hu Chaochuan pushed her away. Hu Chaochuan, who had called Hua Yun baby in front of Yun Jian before, did not even treat Hua Yun as a human when he was frustrated. Chapter 10:28. As Hu Chaochuan spoke, he glared at Hua Yun. His behavior was a stark contrast to Hu Chaochuan, who called Hua Yun baby in front of outsiders. Even so, Hua Yun was not mad at all. Because Hu Chaochuan was her ATM. If she left Hu Chaochuan now, she was nothing. F***CK. Hu Chaochuan growled and slammed all the books on the desk onto the floor. With this slap, a few books hit Hua Yun's body. One of the books even hit Hua Yun's forehead hard, causing a big bump to form on the spot. Hua Yun clenched her teeth in pain, but she dared not utter a word in the end. The only thing she had left was Hu Chaochuan, because Hu Chaochuan's money was the only thing she could show off in front of outsiders. Therefore, Hua Yun could only endure Hu Chaochuan's violence at home and be an envied rich lady outside. This was Hua Yun's current living situation. The next day, Yun Jian went to school as usual. Once the 3-day holiday of Labor Day was over, Yun Jian's life returned to normal. The 3-day holiday of Labor Day could be considered Yun Jian's last long break in junior high school. Once May was over, the senior high school entrance examination would begin in late June. What awaited everyone in the end was the yearning high school life. As for what kind of school they could get into and which school they would go to, it all depended on the senior high school entrance examination in late June. Jian. Sob. I'm getting moldy at home. I can finally go back to school and stay with you every day. I'm so excited. Just as Yun Jian returned to school, Chen Sini pounced on her. Yun Jian did not avoid her but allowed Chen Sini to hug her. Chen Sini was finally back to school after recuperating at home for so long. To be honest, Chen Sini was the person whom Yun Jian and her friends were looking forward to the most in school. Initially, she thought that she would not be able to meet any other friends other than Lu Fian after leaving Xinjiang town, but she did not expect to meet Chen Sini. There was also Zhang Xiaofan and the rest. Let go, it's time for class. Although she was a little emotional, Yun Jian pressed her lips together and told Chen Sini nonchalantly. Hee, I see. I know you're excited too, Jian. Chen Sini hugged Yun Jian's hand coquettishly. It was only when the morning bell rang that Chen Sini let go of Yun Jian's hand. There was a night self-study session on Tuesday. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. In addition, Yun Jian and the girls were about to take their high school entrance exams, so the evening self-study session was usually dragged to class by the respective subject teachers. In the end, it would even drag on for more than 10 minutes. By the time school was over, most of the day and boarding students from the other grades had already left. Zhang Xiaofan still had to go to the field for some exercise after the evening self-study session, so Yun Jian and Chen Sini walked out of the school gate first. The night breeze was rather chilly. Chen Sini stayed by Yun Jian's side, holding Yun Jian's hand as they turned a corner to go home. Just as they turned the corner, Yun Jian felt that something was off. Ha bros, it's this chick's boyfriend who kicked me hard at the amusement park yesterday. Yun Jian recognized the leader of a group of people who were walking toward them at first glance. The leader was Yang Katie's boyfriend, Yu Hui, who refused to apologize for stepping on Duan Li yesterday. Currently, Yu Hui was leading a group of more than 20 teenagers with Yang Kai-dai in his arms. There were also some teenagers who came to watch the show, surrounding Yun Jian and Chen Sini. From the looks of it, it was obvious that Yu Hui and his men were here to cause trouble. Chapter 1029. Yu Hui was indeed here to cause trouble. After being kicked by Ce yesterday, he felt like his internal organs were about to be destroyed. To Yu Hui, he had never suffered such humiliation in his life. However, considering that Ce was too strong, he took his girlfriend, Yang Kai-dai, and ran away first. If he couldn't win, he would run away. This was Yu Hui's habit. Of course, he buried yesterday's incident in his heart. After being kicked so ruthlessly, how could Yu Hui let it go? Luckily, Yu Hui asked his brothers to investigate and finally found out that Yun Jian was studying at Longmen Yizhong High School. Yu Hui was amazed at how powerful his influence was. He was actually able to find Yun Jian's school in such a short period of time. At the same time, he didn't forget how Yun Jian dealt with Yang Kai-dai yesterday. It seemed like this girl had some skills too. Hence, Yu Hui took advantage of the fact that Ce wasn't around today to bring his 20 brothers and planned to intercept Yun Jian here. 20 people against one girl. He didn't believe that they would lose. Yu Hui's group of school hooligans, if they were bullied by anyone, even if it was just a little bit, they would make a big fuss out of it, as if they were going to die. Today, Yu Hui brought 20 people to surround Yun Jian and teach her a lesson. Yo, Yu Hui, I didn't expect these two girls to be so pretty. Haha. The group of 20 hooligans surrounded Yun Jian and Chen Sini in a corner. One of them was dressed like a hooligan and had a yellow mohawk hairstyle. He sized up Yun Jian and Chen Sini from the corner of his eyes. He looked as if he wanted to see Yun Jian and Chen Sini naked. Brother Haitian, it was this damned woman who framed me yesterday. She even slapped my beautiful face until it was swollen. You have to take revenge for your younger sister. Yang Kai-dai also stood up and covered her face as she spoke. Looking at Yang Katie's pitiful expression, it was as if she was really the victim. The brother Hai Tian that Yang Kai-dai mentioned was the young man with the yellow mohawk. The young man's name was Wang Haitian, and he was the most powerful one among the 20 or so punks. Yang Kai-dai also got to know this group of gangsters who she thought were very powerful because she was dating Yu Hui. It was also because of this group of people that Yang Kai-dai was so arrogant to the outside world. That was because she felt that she had a backer. Hee, they actually dared to bully our little sister Kai-dai. Of course I will help you, teach them a lesson. Wang Haitian walked up to Yun Jian and Chen Sini like a ruffian and sized them up with narrowed eyes. Not only were the 20 over brothers that Yu Hui had brought with him, there were also some people who came to watch the show after hearing that there was going to be a gang fight. The people around them were mostly students. However, when they saw Yun Jian being surrounded by Wang Haitian, Yu Hui and the rest, they all shook their heads and sighed. It seemed like the two girls who were surrounded were done for today. The students around them were not from Yun Jian's school, but from Wang Haitian and Yu Hui's school. Therefore, none of them knew that Yun Jian was Team Monarch/ing God. At that moment, Wang Haitian was looking at Yun Jian's voluptuous breasts with perverted eyes. So beautiful! There was actually such a beautiful girl in this world. Little girl, are you scared? Hee, if you let me touch your breasts, I'll let you go. How about that? Wang Haitian put forward such shameless words. As he spoke, he even whistled, pretending to be very domineering. How do you want to die? Chapter 10:30. The people standing around had thought that Yun Jian would beg for mercy, lose her face from fright, or hug Chen Sini in fright and cry out what to do. This was how a normal girl would react when faced with such a situation. But what about Yun Jian? She didn't follow Wang Haitian's words. Instead, she asked Wang Haitian, "How do you want to die?" Are you kidding me? The current situation was that Yun Jian was surrounded by Yu Hui, Wang Haitian, and the rest, and they were about to gang up on her. She was a girl, but not only was she not afraid, she even looked at Wang Haitian and the rest and said such words. Wasn't this asking for death? It was fine if Yun Jian wasn't afraid, but why didn't the girl standing beside Yun Jian have any sense of fear? Chen Sini was standing beside Yun Jian, but just like Yun Jian, she didn't show any signs of fear in front of Wang Haitian and the rest. Hey, little girl, don't try to be brave. You won't die if I touch you. I'll touch you gently, and I'll let you go after that. How about that? Wang Haitian was mesmerized by Yun Jian's beauty, and he didn't even have the intention to avenge Yu Hui and Yang Kai-dai. At this moment, his entire heart was on Yun Jian. Such a beauty made him want to conquer her from the bottom of his heart. Wang Haitian, I was the one who found this beauty. Why are you the only one who can touch her? Yu Hui saw that Wang Haitian wanted to monopolize Yun Jian, and he panicked. He didn't even care about his own girlfriend, and opened his mouth to say these words. Yu Hui's words made Yang Katie's eyes widen. Yu Hui, you actually had this kind of idea. You even said that you're going to avenge me tonight, you. Don't, my baby. I'm torturing her because I want to avenge you. Yu Hui realized that he had said something wrong and he immediately changed his words. Although Yu Hui's explanation was rather far-fetched, Yang Kai-dai turned around unhappily and pouted her lips. After making an angry face, she didn't say anything else. It was only then that Yu Hui turned his attention back to Yun Jian. Just as Yu Hui turned his head around, he suddenly heard the surrounding students exclaim in surprise. Oh my god, this girl, she actually carries a knife with her. Yu Hui's attention was attracted by the noise. He turned around in surprise and saw Yun Jian pulling out a butterfly knife from her pocket. With a swift flick of her hand, the butterfly knife was caught in Yun Jian's palm. Seeing Yun Jian's proficient posture with a knife, everyone present was slightly stunned. In the next second, they heard Yun Jian's lips curl up. Her red lips moved up and down slightly, and the hand holding the butterfly knife tightened. Then, she pointed the blade of the butterfly knife at Wang Haitian and the others. Don't talk nonsense. You want to gang up on me, right? Get your weapons and come at me together. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you bunch of trash. The moment Yun Jian whipped out the butterfly knife was enough to send chills down people's spines. After all, she was a girl. How could she carry a knife with her? However, when Yun Jian finished speaking, the group of people led by Wang Haitian were dumbfounded. What did this girl say? She wanted all of them to come at her together? She even said that they were trash? Could it be that she wanted to fight with them all by herself? Was this a joke? Just her alone. Chapter 1031. Yun Jian strode forward. She lifted one of her legs and kicked Wang Haitian's abdomen, who was looking at her wretchedly. Wang Haitian's eyes were fixed on Yun Jian, and Yun Jian's movements were swift and violent. In the next moment, Yun Jian's leg had already kicked Wang Haitian's abdomen. Yun Jian had no intention of going easy on this kick. At the same time, Yun Jian waved the butterfly knife at Wang Haitian's chest twice. In the next moment, Wang Haitian was sent flying by Yun Jian's kick. The moment Wang Haitian was sent flying, everyone turned their attention to him. They saw Wang Haitian fly a few meters away after being kicked in the abdomen by Yun Jian. After Wang Haitian fell to the ground with a plop, everyone realized that Wang Haitian's clothes had been torn by Yun Jian. Yun Jian seemed to have put away the knife on purpose. The tip of the knife didn't hurt Wang Haitian's skin, but everyone saw Wang Haitian fall to the ground. The front of his clothes had been cut by the blade. Wang Haitian's clothes had been cut by the knife, forming a big X. Wang Haitian's clothes were cut into an X shape by the knife. This scene caused everyone present to panic and be stunned. But at the same time, when everyone thought of this, they didn't forget one thing. This X had been cut by Yun Jian with the knife in her hand. This could also be seen from the side. Yun Jian's knife skills were amazing. Just as everyone was thinking this, Yun Jian had already taken a big step forward. Her jade-like legs on the ground suddenly jumped, and she jumped into the air. Then, she lifted her legs and kicked the chests of the two brothers standing behind Wang Haitian. Wang Haitian had just been sent flying. Everyone was dumbfounded. How could they care about anything else? However, at this moment, Yun Jian lifted her leg and kicked the two brothers behind Wang Haitian. At the same time, she waved the butterfly knife, her hands and feet moving in a continuous stream. Following that, Yun Jian wandered among the 20-odd people Wang Haitian had brought with him. Wherever she went, a bunch of them collapsed. In less than half a minute, it was so fast that this group of people didn't even have time to react. The surrounding students who were watching the show saw Yun Jian ruthlessly kick the last one, Yu Hui. When Yu Hui was sent flying, Yun Jian's footsteps followed closely. She waited for Yu Hui to fall to the ground before she ruthlessly kicked Yu Hui's abdomen. Then, the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand landed on Yu Hui's neck. When they recovered from their shock and turned to look at where Yun Jian had passed by, they saw that each of the hooligans who were sprawled on the floor had an X slashed across their chests. This X was so neat that it was as if it was perfectly carved out by a knife. All of this, without a doubt, hinted at how precise Yun Jian's knife skills were. She was so precise that she didn't seem like a middle school girl at all. In just half a minute, she kicked more than 20 people to the ground at the same time and drew a big X on the front of each of their clothes. This wasn't something an ordinary junior high school girl could do. At this moment, Yun Jian was stepping on Yu Hui's abdomen. The pressure was so great that Yu Hui couldn't breathe. She tilted her head slightly and raised her beautiful eyebrows. Then, she moved the knife closer to Yu Hui's neck and sneered, "Are you trying to deliver yourself to me so that I can kill you?" Her words were cold and her eyes carried a luster that no one dared to underestimate. At this moment, Wang Haitian, Yu Hui and the rest who were on the ground felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. Before they could even make a move, they were already subdued by Yun Jian. What kind of speed was this? Chapter 1032. Yun Jian's words shocked everyone present. Especially Yu Hui, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian. Although Yu Hui usually liked to act cool in front of girls, when he was being threatened with a knife and stepped on, he was scared out of his wits. Yu Hui swallowed a mouthful of saliva before he spoke in a trembling voice. "Please take the knife away. All of this is not my fault. It's Yang Kai Dai. She was the one who threatened me. If you want to kill, then kill her. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me." Yu Hui was really scared. At the same time, he suddenly hated his girlfriend, Yang Kai Dai, to the extreme for instigating all these things. If Yang Kai Dai didn't say that he would take revenge for her as a man, he wouldn't have brought his brothers here to look for Yun Jian. And he wouldn't have been held by Yun Jian with a knife. Yu Hui thought that with more than 20 of his brothers, how could they not be able to deal with Yun Jian? Unless she wasn't an ordinary person. She was an assassin in the movies. An agent. But he was wrong. He was ridiculously wrong. She actually managed to subdue all of them by herself. Yuhui. You actually. As Yu Hui's girlfriend, young Katie's heart trembled when she heard such words from Yu Hui's mouth. At a critical moment, her boyfriend actually said, "It's not my fault. If you want to kill, then kill her." Yang Kai-dai couldn't breathe for a long time after hearing Yu Hui's heartless words. "Are you done?" Yun Jian raised her voice, raised her eyebrows and sneered. When Yun Jian shouted, Yu Hui was so scared that he immediately shut his mouth. Yun Jian smirked coldly and sneered at Yu Hui again. "No matter what, you brought so many people to surround me today. This is the truth. If I don't give you a gift in return, it would be rude." As Yun Jian spoke, she increased the force on her feet. Yu Hui, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian, almost spat out a mouthful of white foam. I beg you. Let me go." Yu Hui's eyes were only left with a pleading look. Only then did he realize Yun Jian's cruelty. Just as Yun Jian moved slightly, and the butterfly knife in her hand was getting closer and closer to Yu Hui's neck, no one dared to stop her. "Over there. Damn it. The people from other schools want to gang up on our Yun Jian. Did they ask for our permission? Let's go, let's kill those people. How dare they bully Yun Jian?" A loud voice was heard, and not long after, Zhang Xiaofan and Zhang Jian led a group of people and rushed over from the corner. This group of people was no doubt the students from Longmen First High School. When they heard that there was a gang fight and the target was Yun Jian, Zhang Xiaofan and Zhang Jian led a group of students who idolized Yun Jian to the core and rushed over like headless flies. "Master." When Zhang Xiaofan and the rest saw Yun Jian stepping on Yu Hui, and Wang Haitian and the rest who were kicked to the ground by Yun Jian getting up from the ground, he led a group of people and rushed towards Wang Haitian and the rest like a swarm of bees. Some of the boys from Longmen First High School who came to help Yun Jian had even picked up their backpacks and were ready to go home. When they heard that Team Monarch's slashing god was surrounded by a group of people, they threw their backpacks down and rushed over. How dare they touch their idol? They must have a death wish. Wang Haitian and the rest were dumbfounded. Were their eyes playing tricks on them? Yun Jian's popularity in Longmen First High School was so high? Why? Just as Wang Haitian thought of this, one of them lifted Wang Haitian's head and punched him in the head. "How dare you gang up on Team Monarch's slashing god? Go to hell!" The person said as he punched Wang Haitian. While being punched, Wang Haitian and the rest clearly heard a few words. "Team Monarch's slashing god? Yun Jian." Chapter 1033. When Wang Haitian and the rest heard that Yun Jian was Team Monarch's slashing god, their eyeballs nearly fell out of their sockets. Team Monarch's slashing god. She was now a legend in Longmen City and even the entire Zhe province. Many of the boys in the school had even made slashing god their goal and idol. It was no exaggeration to say that slashing god was an existence that could be heard but not touched to Wang Haitian and the rest. When Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest of them nearly fainted from the shock when they heard that such a legendary figure was the same person who had taken down all 20 of them single-handedly just now. They were slashing gods fans too. The group that Zhang Xiaofan and Zhang Jian had brought along were ready to go home after school, but once they heard that something had happened to Yun Jian, all of them dropped their bags and ran over. They were even more aggressive now as they rushed up and subdued Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, Yang Kai-dai, and the rest of the group. Yun Jian's foot that was stepping on Yu Hui loosened as well. She narrowed her eyes and did not need to do anything in the end. Zhang Xiaofeng was Yun Jian's junior brother, and this was a well-known fact in Longmen E Junior High. Therefore, with Zhang Xiaofeng commanding, none of the boys who came to help Yun Jian were disgruntled. They rushed up one by one and pressed Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest to the ground with their advantage in numbers. "Humph, master, they wanted to gang up on you. Today I, your son-in-law, will kill these idiots for you." As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, he gestured at Longmen E Junior High's classmates who came to help Yun Jian. "Don't go soft. Give them a good beating. How dare they bully my master? They can forget about going back in peace." As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, the boys from Longmen E Junior High responded loudly. Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest who were initially aggressive were now the ones begging for mercy. Yun Jian raised a brow. Was she so popular in school now? The sight of Zhang Xiaofeng leading his classmates to help her made Yun Jian feel like she was being protected. The feeling made Yun Jian smile from the bottom of her heart. Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, Yang Kai Dai, and the rest who had offended Yun Jian, the slashing god of Team Monarch, scrambled away when they had the chance. How would they dare seek revenge? Yun Jian was the slashing god of Team Monarch. Watching them run away, the boys from Longmen Junior High School who came to help Yun Jian beat up Wang Haitian cheered and ran to Yun Jian to worship her. It was as if they were meeting their idols, and the extravagance was indescribable. Where is it? These little bastards actually dare to fight in front of me. At this time, a teacher on duty heard about the group fight here and ran over with a student who complained in an aggressive manner. When Teacher Zhou, who was on duty, saw the crowd surrounding Yun Jian and could not contain their excitement, he rushed up with a stick and hit the male students of Longmen Junior High School who admired Yun Jian one by one, gritting his teeth in resentment. "You little brats! How dare you gang up on a female classmate? Ha!" As he said that, the teacher on duty angrily knocked on each of the boys' heads. The boys present felt extremely wronged. Teacher Zhou, who was almost 50 years old and had a strong sense of justice, was so angry that he could barely breathe. Chapter 1034. Teacher Zhou on duty was a very righteous little old man. He was not even 50 years old, but his hair was already white. In order to cover up his white hair, he even dyed his hair stylishly black. At this moment, he was holding a small wooden stick in his hand. This wooden stick was originally broken off from the tree. When he came here, he heard that a group of male students were fighting here. He was simply furious, so he broke off a branch from the tree and ran over here aggressively. Today was his shift, and they actually dared to fight in front of the school gate. This group of little bastards. None of them knew how powerful he was as a male tiger. That's right, this teacher on duty was the teaching director of Longmen First High School. His surname was Zhang, and Director Zhang was usually very fierce. He was a very fierce little old man. Moreover, he liked to go to extremes, so the students in school gave him a nickname, Male Tiger. It meant that once Director Zhang caught something, he would not let it go no matter what. He had to find out who was right and who was wrong. Just like the tiger, he would not let go of the prey that he had set his eyes on. Therefore, the nickname Male Tiger was formed just like that. Director Zhang also knew that his classmates had given him this nickname. Not only was he not angry, as long as his classmates did not make any mistakes, he would even joke about the nickname that his classmates gave him. It could be said that Director Zhang was a teacher who was strict and could take jokes. He was a teacher who could play and joke with his classmates. Although Director Zhang was quite scary when he was fierce, his classmates still liked him very much. There was one thing that was very admirable about Director Zhang, and that was that he felt that he should protect the vulnerable. In school, girls were also considered one of the vulnerable groups by Director Zhang. After all, it was a fact that girls' physical strength was not as good as boys. Hence, when he saw a large group of boys surrounding Yun Jian, Director Zhang concluded without thinking that this was the rhythm of a large group of boys wanting to bully a weak girl. Hence, Director Zhang was so angry that he casually broke a branch and rushed over to hit the boys one by one. The result? When he angrily hit all the boys, this girl actually said, "It's not their fault, I was the one who started the fight." Really? She was the one who started the gang fight? Director Zhang was stunned on the spot. He looked at Yun Jian in a daze, holding the small wooden stick in his hand. He looked like he couldn't believe it. Getting into a gang fight would be punished by the school. Yun Jian knew that as well. What's more, Zhang Xiaofan had brought this group of people because of him. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had always been protective of her shortcomings. If someone respected her, she would return the favor tenfold. This was her principle. Where is he? What if they didn't bully you? Then, that group of people, what about them? Director Zhang was not someone who could be easily fooled. He looked around and said to Yun Jian, "Little girl, if you get bullied by these guys, just tell me. I guarantee that they won't dare to bully you again." Director Zhang thought that Yun Jian was afraid of telling the truth because she was bullied by the boys around her, so he opened his mouth to speak. However, Director Zhang had just opened his mouth when Yun Jian interrupted him. "I chased them away." As she said that, Yun Jian's red lips curled up into a smile. At the same time, she gently swung the butterfly knife. This butterfly knife was smoothly closed by her and then placed into her trouser pocket. What? Chased away by you? Director Zhang obviously did not believe Yun Jian and was about to retort when Yun Jian interrupted him. Just as he was about to say something, the voice of the student who was watching the show but didn't participate in it came from the side. This student was obviously not from Longmen First High School. Chapter 1035. The words of the student who spoke reached Director Zhang's ears without any hindrance. Director Zhang's expression changed from disbelief to shock and horror. What did this student just say? This girl, Yun Jian, whom he thought was being bullied by the boys, defeated more than 20 boys all by herself? How could such a miraculous thing happen to a female student? Director Zhang was completely stunned. However, at that moment, after the student who was watching the show spoke, another student followed suit. Haha, how could that group of people be her match? Didn't they say she's Team Monarch Slashing God? She's the slashing god. Even if there were a few hundred of them, they still wouldn't be a match for her, let alone those 20 or so people from before. She's from the military. It was already shocking enough for Director Zhang, but after the student who followed suit, Director Zhang was even more terrified. What? The Team Monarch Slashing God, who was the talk of the town recently, was actually the girl whom he thought was being bullied? Director Zhang was a genuine old urchin. He had heard of Team Monarch Slashing God before, but he did not know that she was in their school. Although the incident was spreading like wildfire in Longmen First High School, Director Zhang was unaware of it. Yun Jian curled her lips slightly. She was not afraid of being punished at all. She merely raised a brow and looked at Director Zhang. So, this incident has nothing to do with them. Yun Jian seized the opportunity to speak again. When Yun Jian said that, the boys present were very touched. Could it be that Yun Jian wanted to shoulder all the responsibility alone? Although Yun Jian was the cause of the incident, everyone did make a move in the end. If they were caught in a gang fight by the teachers, they would be severely punished. So, can we disperse now? Yun Jian's red lips curled up slightly as she spoke to Director Zhang again. As she spoke, her eyes flashed with a different color when she looked at Director Zhang. In 1999, there were not many cases of girls fighting. Girls in this era were very reserved, especially when it came to fighting with boys. Even in the current era, such cases were rare. Director Zhang had been a director for so many years and had never encountered such an incident. The corners of Director Zhang's mouth twitched. Because of the shock just now and the fact that he was a little confused at the moment, he paused for a moment and then said in a daze, "Huh? Oh. All right. Let's disperse. Disperse." At that moment, Yun Jian's eyes were sizing up Director Zhang. No one noticed that Yun Jian was looking at Director Zhang and even hypnotizing him. At that moment, hypnotism was the most effective. Looking at the dazed Director Zhang, everyone present was a little stunned. What? Based on Director Zhang's personality as the male tiger, shouldn't he fly into a rage and ask Yun Jian which class she was from? Shouldn't he be giving her marks at the registration counter? When Yun Jian heard that, she smirked and turned sideways. Just as she was about to wave Chen Xini, Zhang Xiaofan, and Zhang Jian to leave with her, Director Zhang interrupted her. That classmate. Director Zhang spoke again. The students who were dumbfounded earlier had goosebumps all over again. What? Was Director Zhang going to settle scores with Yun Jian again? Classmate. Be careful on your way home. Okay. Unexpectedly, Director Zhang did not mention any punishment at all. The people standing around were all dumbfounded. Director Zhang had always been an impartial person. Why did he not punish Yun Jian today? He just let Yun Jian go. In the end, the students could not figure it out. Hence, they unanimously concluded that it was because Yun Jian was Team Monarch Slashing God. Chapter 1036. At this moment, Yun Jian had already left with Zhang Xiaofan and the others. Everyone was left standing in their original positions. Yun Jian had just left with Zhang Xiaofan, Chen Xini, and Zhang Jian. They were walking on the side of a busy road. Zhang Xiaofan couldn't wait to ask Yun Jian excitedly, "Master, did you just use hypnotism?" Zhang Xiaofan actually saw through it? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, but she wasn't surprised. Back then, Yun Jian had used hypnotism in front of Zhang Xiaofan, Chen Xini, and Ling Chen. Later on, Lu Haozi even discovered it. At that time, Zhang Xiaofan and Chen Xini didn't ask her what was going on, but Yun Jian could feel that Zhang Xiaofan and Chen Xini were actually very interested in this matter. Yun Jian didn't intend to hide it from Zhang Xiaofan. She tilted her head slightly and glanced at Zhang Xiaofan, then nodded. She had indeed used hypnosis on Director Zhang just now to make him muddle-headed and forget that he had been in a group fight with others. After all, what happened just now wasn't her fault. It was Wang Haitian and Yu Hui who brought people to find her. Yun Jian didn't want the school to make it seem like a big deal because of what happened just now. She didn't want to be criticized and punished in front of the entire school. She wasn't afraid of being punished, but she simply didn't want trouble. Ha! Grandmaster, you actually know the legendary hypnotism. Although Zhang Jian was chubby and strong, he reacted quickly. When he spoke, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Zhang Jian didn't know that Yun Jian knew hypnotism. You brat, my master knows a lot of things. You're making a big fuss. Embarrassing. Zhang Xiaofan rebuked Zhang Jian, then chuckled. Zhang Xiaofan didn't beg Yun Jian to teach him hypnotism because he knew that Yun Jian would teach him everything she could. Of course, she knew what she couldn't teach or couldn't teach. It was because of Zhang Xiaofang's personality that Yun Jian made an exception to accept him as her disciple. Finally, they parted ways at the intersection. Time passed in the blink of an eye. After May Day, Yun Jian returned to her normal life. The beginning of May passed, Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding day. On May 21, 1999, Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding. Although it was Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's second marriage, it was the first time they felt the excitement before their wedding. In the past, no matter if it was when Qin Yiru and Yun Gang were forced to marry, or when Gu Junjian was forced to marry Hua Yun, they didn't feel this way. At that time, they felt as if someone who had nothing to do with them had gotten married. However, a few days before the wedding, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were extremely nervous. Seeing that the wedding day was approaching, Gu Junjian had already booked a hotel. The wedding would be held at the hotel on May 18, 1999. There were 3 days before the wedding. Qin Yiru was staying at home. Every day felt like a year. On one hand, she was looking forward to her wedding with Gu Junjian because she knew that Gu Junjian was sincere to her. On the other hand, she was a little scared. After a failed marriage, all women would have the same fear of marriage as Qin Yiru. Even if they hadn't experienced their second marriage, many women would have the same fear before marriage. They were afraid that the man would treat them badly. These days, Yun Jian asked for leave and stayed at home to accompany Qin Yiru. Chapter 1037. Xiao Jian, there are still 3 days before the wedding. My heart can't stop pounding. I wonder if the days ahead will be comfortable after marrying your Uncle Gu. Qin Yiru held Yun Jian's hand as her heart raced. Normal women generally had a slight premarital phobia, but some people didn't show it so obviously. Before the wedding, most people would have some concerns and more or less felt a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts. In serious cases, they would even start to dread getting married. Qin Yiru had experienced a failed marriage, so it was normal for her to have such thoughts now. Mom, Uncle Gu is sincere to you. You don't have to worry about anything now. What you should do the most is to have a good sleep. I'll take care of everything else. Yun Jian patted Qin Yiru's palm comfortingly and pressed her lips into a faint smile. I've sent out all the invitations. Mom, rest well now and wait for the 21st of May to put on your beautiful wedding gown. Yun Jian had settled everything. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Qin Yiru's uneasiness calmed down instantly. Yiru, Officer Gu is a good man. Trust my judgment. Dong Wan, who had heard Qin Yiru and Yun Jian's conversation, walked in from the door. Dong Wan was a high-ranking official and was busy with work. Due to Qin Yiru's impending wedding, she had put aside everything she was busy with and applied for a week's leave, planning to accompany Qin Yiru through the wedding. When Qin Yiru had dropped out of high school, she could not do anything for Qin Yiru. Now that Qin Yiru had finally found her happiness, as a friend, she should stay by her side. It was not too late to make up for what she did not have the chance to do in the past. This time, she wanted her best friend, who had accompanied her since she was a teenager to her middle age, to get married in a grand manner. However, Why was her Yiru getting married again? She was not marrying a bastard like Yun Gang either. She could not bear to part with her. Dong Ruan swallowed the jealousy in her heart and walked over to hug Qin Yiru. Yiru, if you dare to be unhappy, I promise I'll break Gu Yunjian's legs. After decades, Dong Ruan finally expressed her thoughts. Although her words were a little extreme, Qin Yiru knew that Dong Ruan would not really break Gu Yunjian's legs. She was just trying to make herself happy in another way. Even if the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, there would always be such a person behind you, silently protecting you. She is not your relative, nor is she your biological parent, but she cares for you from the bottom of her heart. They had been good sisters for decades and had been friends for a lifetime. This was a friendship that could be brought to the grave. Looking at Dong Ruan and Qin Yiru, Yun Jian smiled as well. It was then that Yun Jian's phone rang. A call at this time was simply ruining the atmosphere. Yun Jian hung up the call and walked out of the house. On her way out, she closed the door behind her. Then, she took out her phone again and dialed the number. When she called back, Yun Jian was already walking down the stairs in her flats. When she was halfway down the stairs, the call was picked up. Sister Jian, it's Diani. We're in Longmen City. Where are you? The voice of Diani, the leader of the Kosha mercenaries intelligence team, came from the other end of the phone. Chapter 1038. Yun Jian had sent out quite a number of invitations in the name of Kosha mercenaries. With Gu Sha mercenaries' identity, how could these people not come when they had sent out invitations to influential figures in the world? Kosha mercenaries. Kosha mercenaries were an existence that could stand shoulder to shoulder with an Hun group. Sending out invitations in the name of Kosha mercenaries to influential figures in the world was not a question of whether they would come. Even if they were not invited, the influential figures in the world would rush to Longmen City at the speed of a rocket when they heard about it. If someone were to ask around, they would know that the large hotels and five-star hotels in Longmen City were fully booked. Generally, those who were qualified to stay in a five-star hotel were usually the rich and wealthy. The average citizen did not have the financial ability or the need to choose to stay in expensive five-star hotels. Therefore, five-star hotels would usually have leftover rooms. These days, however, these five-star hotels were not only fully booked but there were also many foreigners. Yun Jian was well aware of this. There were already people who rushed to Longmen City in case she was late for the invitation she sent out. It was the first time Annie and the others had come to Longmen City, so when Yun Jian received the call, she went back to her room to change into a clean white shirt and slim-fit pants before she went out. CE was coming back from an Hun group the next day. CE planned to take a long break after she was done with her work in the organization. Yun Jian had Annie and the others go to Longmen City's East Bus Terminal while she took the bus there. Annie and the others had rushed over from the headquarters of Kosha mercenaries by bus as well. When Yun Jian saw Annie and the others, they were still standing at Longmen City's East Bus Terminal. There were only 3 of them on this trip. The one who stood at the front was a woman in her 20s with long black hair. She was beautiful and delicate. She was Annie. Diani was a ZY mixed blood. She had a head of beautiful black hair and a pair of gray eyes. She was very delicate and beautiful. The moment they saw Yun Jian, Annie and the other 2 girls ran over. Standing at the front, Annie was the first to give Yun Jian a big hug. Sister Jian. Kosha mercenaries was divided into many departments, and 3 of them were the most important. These 3 departments were the intelligence team, the assassination team, and the investigation team. Annie was the head of the intelligence team. As for the woman and man beside Annie, they were the assassination team's leader, Gue Yan, and the investigation team leader, Gue Yan. The leader of the assassination team, Gue Yan, was a woman, while the leader of the investigation team, Gue Yan, was a man. Annie, Gue Yan, and Gue Lien were the leaders of Kosha mercenaries' intelligence team, assassination team, and investigation team respectively. They were one of the important high-ranking members in the hierarchy of Kosha mercenaries. Back in Kosha mercenaries, Gue Yan and Gue Lien had met Yun Jian as well, so both of them greeted Yun Jian as Sister Jian. Right, Sister Jian, Elder Snake. Lizard and the others will only arrive in Longmen City in 2 days, Diani told Yun Jian as she recalled Snake. Lizard's instruction. Yun Jian pressed her lips together before curling her lips into a smile and said after a beat, I know. Yunju's sister? At this moment, a surprised voice was heard. Yun Jian raised a brow when she heard the voice. Just as she turned around, she saw Miss Lu, who had just alighted from a city bus and was greeting her. Miss Lu was Xiao Yunju's homeroom teacher in school and the one who had slandered Xiao Yunju back then. Chapter 1039. Yun Jian's stunning performance at Xiao Yunju school had been witnessed by Miss Lu, as well as Xiao Yunju's classmates and parents. During the sports meet at Xiao Yunju school, Yun Jian had killed an assassin on the spot and the news had spread like wildfire. However, that was not the main point. The most shocking thing was Yun Jian's identity. She was an advanced special forces soldier in the military. She was Team Monarch/God. An ordinary person, especially an underage girl, had actually killed someone. Miss Lu should have stayed away from her when she found out. Miss Lu should have been scared to death when she saw Yun Jian, or she might even request the school to expel Xiao Yunju, because his sister was a murderer. However, that was not the case. With the identity of an advanced special forces soldier and Team Monarch/God, not only was Miss Lu not afraid of Yun Jian, she even thought that Yun Jian was the embodiment of justice. Therefore, Miss Lu walked over with a smile on her face. Sister Yunju, I didn't expect to see you here. Why? Are you here to take the bus from East Station too? Miss Lu walked over with a smile. Her face was full of smiles as she walked over. She could not hide the flattery written all over her face. Whether it was the first time she saw Yun Jian or Xiao Yunju at the sports meet, Miss Lu had always treated Xiao Yunju and Yun Jian with disdain. The reason was simple. Miss Lu had always thought that Xiao Yunju came from a poor family. Therefore, Miss Lu had no patience for Xiao Yunju. However, it was different this time. After knowing that Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier, especially knowing that Yun Jian was Team Monarch/God, Miss Lu's attitude towards Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju changed instantly. Yun Jian was already an advanced special forces soldier at such a young age. From this, it could be deduced that Yun Jian's future was definitely not something an ordinary person could compare with. Therefore, when Teacher Lu saw Yun Jian, she called out to her in order to get close to her. Yun Jian did not have a good impression of Xiao Yunju's homeroom teacher, Teacher Lu. She only glanced at Teacher Lu from the corner of her eyes and replied coldly, Yes, I'm here to pick up my friend. She didn't want to say anything else. So you're here to pick up friends. Teacher Lu glanced at Dai Annie, Gue Yan, and Gue Lian before nodding in satisfaction. Seeing that Yun Jian was about to leave, Teacher Lu immediately came up to her and stopped her. By the way, Sister Yunju has been doing well in school recently. If she keeps it up, it won't be a problem for her to be a good student this semester. Teacher Lu knew that parents all hoped that their children would be able to get the 3 Good Student Award. Hence, in order to get closer to Yun Jian, she used all her trump cards. Her words were filled with the intention of getting close to her. Teacher Lu was the classic, I don't care if you're down and out, but if you're rich, let's be good friends kind of person. However, what Teacher Lu did not know was that Yun Jian did not like flattery, nor did she like these fake things. It's all talk and no substance. I don't want my brother to get a fake piece of paper. Thank you. Yun Jian glanced at Teacher Lu. With that, she turned to call Dai Annie and the rest to leave. Yun Jian's words stunned Teacher Lu. Chapter 1040. Although Yun Jian was Xiao Yunju's sister, she could also be considered as half of Xiao Yunju's parent. The school had a database that registered the students' families. Back then, Teacher Lu saw that Xiao Yunju was adopted by Yun Jian's family, so she looked down on Xiao Yunju. Looking at Yun Jian, she was also dressed plainly. She didn't look like a rich person at all. Teacher Lu saw this, so she didn't pay much attention to Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju in the beginning. She even thought of Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju in her heart. If you don't have money, why are you pretending? What's there to be proud of? But when she found out about Yun Jian's identity, Teacher Lu's attitude completely changed. In order to curry favor with Yun Jian, Teacher Lu even wanted to give Xiao Yunju a certificate for the 3 Best Student Awards at the end of the semester in exchange. Unfortunately, Yun Jian didn't fall for this trick at all. And Yun Jian's words just now were also accusing her of being a hypocrite. Teacher Lu had met parents who rejected her good intentions before, but she had never met someone like Yun Jian. She actually said that she was hypocritical in a roundabout way when she rejected her. But when she saw that Yun Jian was about to leave with Diani and the other two, Teacher Lu panicked and hurriedly shouted, "Sister Yunju, I heard from Yunju that he's going to take leave next Monday, right?" Teacher Lu's shout attracted Yun Jian's attention back. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and turned around. Then, she looked at Teacher Lu in the eye for the first time and said, "Yes." Seeing that Yun Jian's attention was finally back, Teacher Lu put in more effort to say, "A student needs a parent's signature to apply for leave, but since we've met today, this can be waived." Today was Friday. In the morning, Xiao Yunju went to Teacher Lu to ask for a day off. As Qin Yiru's wedding was next Monday, Xiao Yunju had to ask for a day off. It was almost noon. Teacher Lu didn't have any classes in the morning, so she left the school and took the city bus to the nearby market to buy some groceries. She planned to go back to school after she was done. He cooked lunch in the teacher's dormitory. However, he didn't expect to bump into Yun Jian. Teacher Lu thought, "This is fate." It was another line of flattery. Yun Jian chuckled coldly. "Thank you, teacher." Yun Jian's face was calm. Her calm expression touched Teacher Lu's heart. "If there's nothing important, I'll leave first. I'm in a hurry." Yun Jian randomly spouted some nonsense and then turned around. Annie and the other two naturally followed behind Yun Jian like 3 bodyguards. Teacher Lu was surprised when she saw this scene. However, when she saw that Yun Jian was really about to leave, she hurriedly called out to her. "Sister Yun Jian, is your mother getting married next Monday?" When a student asked for leave from a teacher, they had to give a reason. Chapter 1041. To be honest, since Ms. Lu dared to say this, it meant that she was confident that Yun Jian would agree. After all, Yun Jian's younger brother, Xiao Yunju, was studying in her class. If Yun Jian did not agree, it would not do. Disagree? Sure, if Yun Jian dared to disagree, she would catch Xiao Yunju red-handed. Most of the teachers nowadays were like this. Of course, it did not exclude the truly good ones. There were not many left who could meet a truly good teacher who was neither biased nor snobbish. If you could meet one, please cherish it. Teacher Lu's confident face made Annie, Gue Yen, and Gue Lian jump in shock. It was not that Ms. Lu's actions shocked Annie and the other two. Instead, from the moment Ms. Lu greeted Yun Jian until now, Annie and the other two could clearly sense Yun Jian's disgust toward Ms. Lu. That was one of the reasons. Of course, the most important reason was that Ms. Lu had clearly made Yun Jian very unhappy. Yet, she was still standing here unscathed? Based on Yun Jian's personality, should she not have killed Ms. Lu by now? Suddenly, she felt 3 intense gazes sizing her up. Ms. Lu turned her head slightly and saw Annie and the other two sizing her up without any reservations. Ms. Lu was suspicious. She even reached out and touched her face. Then, she felt around for a while before asking Annie, "What's wrong? Is there something on my face?" Since Annie and the other two were following behind Yun Jian, Ms. Lu guessed that Annie and the other two must be on good terms with Yun Jian. To rope in a person, one had to rope in that person's friends first. That was the most important step. Ms. Lu had wanted to build a good relationship with Annie and the other two, but who knew that when she turned to look at Annie and the other two and opened her mouth to say something like that, Annie crossed her arms and turned her head sideways toward Ms. Lu. It looked like she had no intention of paying attention to Ms. Lu at all. Seeing that, Ms. Lu swallowed hard. What if Annie was the one to answer? How should she answer? She couldn't possibly tell Teacher Lu that she wasn't looking at him because there was something on his face, but because it was a miracle that he hadn't been beheaded by Yun Jian after talking so much nonsense. After all, Annie was considered half Chinese. She was sure that if she said that, Teacher Lu would definitely treat her as a lunatic. Cough, cough. Ha! Miss Lu had already mastered the art of being shameless. Seeing that Annie and the others were ignoring her, she coughed a few times in an attempt to cover up the awkward atmosphere. After covering up the awkward atmosphere just now, Teacher Lu grabbed Yun Jian and asked again, "Sister Yunju, it shouldn't be a problem to have one more mouth, right?" Ha! Ha ha! Teacher Lu said this to Yun Jian in a joking tone. After she finished speaking, she even smiled symbolically. With this smile, The passers-by around the station glanced at her suspiciously. Initially, Teacher Lu wanted to talk to Yun Jian in a joking manner, but she smiled. She thought that Yun Jian would also laugh with her. This was an effective way of talking between adults. However, she did not expect that Yun Jian had no intention of laughing with her because she was a teacher at all. Annie and the other two looked at the scene before them coldly. In the end, Yun Jian's slow voice was heard softly. "Oh." Since someone wanted to come up and be slapped in the face, of course, she would not refuse. Chapter 1042. Seeing that Yun Jian had agreed to let her attend the wedding, Miss Lu assumed that Yun Jian had agreed to befriend her. Looking at the silver watch on her wrist, Miss Lu knew that she had classes in the afternoon since the hands were pointing to noon. Even if she wanted to get close to Yun Jian, she dared not be late for class when it was time to return to school. It was a job that would affect her livelihood. "Haha, Sister Yunju, you're such a good sister." Miss Lu chuckled, snapping out of her daze from looking down at her watch. "Well, I have classes in the afternoon, so I have to go back and prepare for lunch. I'll be rushing to class in the afternoon. See you next Monday, Sister Yunju." Miss Lu was rather excited as she turned to leave. She had only taken 2 steps when she turned back to look at Yun Jian. "My son goes to kindergarten and ends school early. My husband doesn't have to go to work next Monday as well. They won't be able to make dinner if I'm not home. If there's space, can I bring my son and husband along?" She was obviously begging for her son and husband to attend Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding together. When Miss Lu heard that Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were getting married this morning, she had asked Xiao Yunju where the wedding would be held. Xiao Yunju was actually an obedient child, so he gave her an address. Qingyun Hotel. Qingyun Hotel was a 4-star hotel recommended by Yun Yi. When Yun Jian came to Longmen City from Xinjiang town for the first time, it was Su Haokol who insisted on treating her and brought Yun Jian and Yun Yi to Qingyun Hotel. Yun Yi had recommended Qingyun Hotel because the food there was excellent. Compared to other 4-star and 5-star hotels, it was much more affordable. Good quality at a reasonable price was the concept of shopping nowadays. Yun Jian's family could afford a 5-star hotel, of course, but Yun Yi had recommended Qingyun Hotel because the food there was delicious and to her taste buds. When Miss Lu heard from Xiao Yunju that Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding would be held in a hotel, Qingyun Hotel, she was tempted. Qingyun Hotel was one of the few 4-star hotels in Longmen City. Although there were 5-star hotels in Longmen City, Qingyun Hotel's standard was relatively high. Qingyun Hotel's items might not be expensive among the 4-star and 5-star hotels, but it was still a hefty sum from a commoner's perspective. Why would they go to a hotel when they were getting married? Especially in this day and age, who wouldn't get married in their own home and invite their neighbors to cook a table of dishes and pass the wedding just like that? For those with better family conditions, they would hire a professional chef to cook a feast. Who would have the money to go to a hotel? It was a 4-star hotel. Take Miss Lu for example. She had never stepped into a 4-star hotel in her entire life with her meager salary as a teacher. Therefore, when she found out that Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were getting married at Qingyun Hotel, Miss Lu did not forget to let her husband and son join in the festivities by having a meal at a 4-star hotel. She was a teacher too. There was no way she would give Qin Yiru a red packet. This meal was a free meal. When Annie, who was standing at the side, heard this, she had the urge to kill Teacher Lu. Chapter 1043. Looking at Yun Jian's smile, Miss Lu really thought that Yun Jian was welcoming of her bringing her family to the wedding. Attending a wedding was a joyous occasion after all. Moreover, Miss Lu thought that she could tell that Yun Jian had decided to accept her. Was she planning to befriend her? Miss Lu was even happier when she thought about it. She exchanged a bunch of pleasantries with Yun Jian before bidding farewell to Yun Jian. When Miss Lu left, Yun Jian did not see her asking for the location of Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding. How was she going to attend the wedding if she did not know where it was? As smart as she was, how could Yun Jian not have guessed that Miss Lu would say something like that when they met today? It was probably because Miss Lu had gotten some information out of Xiao Yunju when he applied for leave from school. Yun Jian's impression of Miss Lu deepened when she said something like that to her student. "Sister Jian, who is she? Why didn't you kill her?" Gue Yan went up to Yun Jian to ask once Miss Lu left. When he said the word, kill, Gue Yan's expression was as calm as the wind and clouds, as if he had just said something insignificant. A young man who was dressed fashionably walked past them and was surprised to hear Gue Yan, a tall and pretty woman who could be considered a modern goddess, speak to Yun Jian without blushing or skipping a beat. "Why didn't you kill her?" The fashionably dressed young man took another look at Yun Jian and Gue Yan before scurrying away in fright. Were these people idiots? Gue Yan was a woman with a very hot temper. A very vicious woman. It was not surprising since she was the leader of the Kosha mercenaries assassination team. There were 3 major teams in the Kosha mercenaries, namely the intelligence team, the assassination team, and the investigation team. Gue Yan was a woman, but she was in charge of all the members of the assassination team. Actually, among these 3 groups, only Ghost Flame's assassination group was the most difficult to manage. This was because the assassination group was in charge of all the secret agents and assassins of the Kosha mercenaries. Because of this, Gue Yan's identity determined her character. Furthermore, her strength was the strongest among the 3 of them. Because I found something even more fun than killing people. Yun Jian stood sideways, the side of her face facing Gue Yan. Her slightly curved lips made the hearts of the 3 people present skip a beat. Oh, what could be more fun than killing people? Tell me, Sister Jian, let me try it too. Dai Annie's interest was piqued when she heard what Yun Jian said, so she asked quickly. Yun Jian turned her gaze back to Dai Annie. She paused for a moment before curling her lips and saying, "Guess." After saying that, she took the lead and walked forward. Diani and Ghost Flame, who were still standing on the spot, were confused. For people like Diana and Gue Yan, who had always been at the top of the world, only by killing those who made them unhappy could they feel satisfied. Yun Jian used to think so too. Therefore, whether it was the old Yun Jian or the current Diani and Gue Yan, they all thought that the best way to deal with someone they hated was to kill them in one blow. After her rebirth, however, Yun Jian realized that the real fun was not killing someone for a moment of satisfaction but... You two don't get it, do you? If someone pisses you off and you kill them, you'll feel satisfied for a moment, but how can you take the pain when they're dead? Ha ha ha. Chapter 1044. Watching Gue Yan catch up to her, the guy was graceful, like a gentleman. Gue Yan stood where she was, thinking about what Gue Yan had said just now before she mocked him. "You're such an idiot." "What are you talking about? Isn't that just showing off? You're being so secretive and you're even giving me a jingle." Gue Yan first complained to Gue Yan. Just as he finished speaking, Gue Yan's mouth twitched as he suddenly thought of something. Is Sister Jian someone who needs to brag? Was the boss of the international Kosha mercenaries someone who needed to brag? No way. With Sister Jian's status, she was someone people would be begging to meet internationally. Why would she need to do something as vulgar as bragging? Before Gue Yan could dwell on it, Dai Annie hit the nail on the head. Haha, this is different. If you're just bragging, our Sister Jian doesn't need it. Sister Jian was showing off in front of an unreasonable person, but this was a different story. Bragging to unreasonable people means that the better you're doing, the angrier they'll be, right? So, what can we do by killing them? If we're happy, how can we not be happy when they're dead? We should learn from Sister Jian and piss them off. Dai Annie said jokingly. In fact, Dai Annie and the girls would still kill those who deserved to be killed. After all, there were some people who would cause endless trouble if they were not killed. What they were saying now was a joke. As Dai Annie and Gue Yan conversed, both of them caught up to Yun Jian. Yun Jian arranged accommodations for Dai Annie and the other 2 girls as well. It was Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding 3 days later. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, it was the day before the wedding. It was the night of the 20th of May 1999. CE had returned from an Hun group a day earlier. On the eve of the wedding, Yun Jian had sent out invitations in the name of the Kosha mercenaries. Those who were invited had already arrived in Longmen City. Recently, all the 4-star and 5-star hotels in Longmen City were fully booked. Gu Xian's biological mother, Hua Yun, was holding her husband, Hu Chaochuan's hand as they led their son, Hu Qixiang, to a 4-star hotel in Longmen City. "I'm sorry, our hotel is full." The receptionist smiled again and politely refused. "What's going on? This is already the 3rd star-rated hotel. Why are they all full?" Hua Yun held Hu Chaochuan's hand and questioned the receptionist like a rich lady. Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan did not live in Longmen City. Hu Chaochuan had chosen to open an amusement park in Longmen City purely because it was more suitable for development. Of course, part of the reason was that he wanted to show off in front of Hua Yun's ex-husband, Gu Junjian. Look, I casually invested in an amusement park. But what about you? You may be rich, but can you be richer than me? However, it was a pity that this project ended before it even started. CE had already purchased the amusement park. It was now CE's, but Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan were unaware of it. I'm sorry, sir and madam. I don't know why there have been a lot of guests these days, so... The receptionist smiled awkwardly. There's not even a room? I say, what's your hotel for? You actually... Hua Yun wanted to press further. Hu Chaochuan stopped Hua Yun's hand. My baby, don't be mad. There's no star-rated hotel. Let's just stay in a normal hotel for a night. Hua Yun's face darkened when she heard that they were going to a low-class place like a normal hotel. In spite of it, Hu Chaochuan quickly made Hua Yun smile again. Chapter 1045. When the receptionist heard Hu Chaochuan's words, she was very surprised. However, the receptionist could only look at the two customers in front of her and smile. In the end, the receptionist watched Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan leave while holding Hu Qixiang's hand. It was only when the three of them left that she heaved a sigh of relief. She then picked up the phone at the front desk and dialed the hotel's general manager. General manager, all the rooms in our hotel tonight, including the deluxe suites, have been sold out. I heard from a woman who wanted to check in, but it's already full. She's already at the 3-star-rated hotel. The receptionist reported what she had just learned to the general manager. On the other end of the phone, the general manager's voice continued, Many important people have come to Longmen City recently. Take it easy and don't offend anyone. Yes, 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 the receptionist answered when she heard that many important people had come to Longmen City. She then probed the general manager carefully and curiously. Then, General Manager, do you know why there are so many important people in a small place like Longmen City? The receptionist was purely curious. Curiosity killed the cat. There was a saying that made sense. How would I know about the important people's business? Do you think I'm a god? Just do your job. The general manager roared at the receptionist in annoyance. The roar frightened the receptionist so much that she put down the phone at once and told the general manager hastily, I understand. Thank you, General Manager. Just as she finished, she saw a young girl walking in from the hotel's entrance not long after Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan left. The girl had a high ponytail, but it was not tied to the top of her head. Instead, it was tied at a suitable position, making her look spirited. The girl's flawless face was slowly approaching her. Even the receptionist, who was a woman, could not help being dumbstruck. Hello, how may I help you? The receptionist greeted Yun Jian politely. I'm looking for someone, Yun Jian said with a smile. Yun Jian was already at the front desk when she finished speaking and rubbed her fingertips on the table. After a moment of silence, she finally asked, Where's room 3106? With the guidance of the receptionist, Yun Jian quickly arrived at the east side of the 3rd floor of the hotel. She was the 6th room from here. When Yun Jian knocked on the door of room 3106, the door opened and she immediately went in. The door was then closed and locked. Yun Jian looked at the snake lizard in front of her and smiled. Sister Jian, everything's ready for tomorrow, snake. Lizard told Yun Jian calmly, looking at her. What he got in return was a light nod from Yun Jian. By the way, tell Raccoon to work harder tomorrow morning and wake up early to do my mom's makeup. As Yun Jian spoke, she walked to the big bed in Snake Lizard's room and sat down lazily. All right, Snake. Lizard nodded. Raccoon and Fox were twin sisters. Raccoon was the one who came to deliver the Ferrari sports car to Yun Jian in the beginning. Every high-ranking member of the Kosha mercenaries had their own abilities, and each of them had the ability to take the world by storm. Raccoon was best at disguise. Transfiguration could also be referred to as makeup, but the difference was that it was based on makeup, turning a person into another person. Raccoon's disguise was already at the pinnacle of perfection, which meant that her makeup skills were even more unfathomable. Chapter 1046. These were all planned by Yun Jian herself, but since Snake Lizard came over, she only needed to inform Snake Lizard, and Snake Lizard would take care of it. This way, Yun Jian could free up a lot of time to deal with other matters. After Snake Lizard listened to Yun Jian, she paused before saying, "Sister Jian, Tiger, Leopard and the rest will be here tomorrow." The wedding was tomorrow, but the official ceremony was usually held in the afternoon and during dinner time. Yun Jian nodded in response. Once Snake Lizard was here, the burden of the kosher mercenaries fell entirely on Tiger Leopard. If Tiger Leopard were to rush over, he would have to make arrangements for the kosher mercenaries before he could rush over. Of course, Tiger Leopard did not have the time, so even if he were to come, he would rush back to the kosher mercenaries after attending Qin Yiru's wedding tomorrow. Yun Jian replied with a nod. Yun Jian came here purely to brief Snake Lizard on the arrangements, like she was taking a stroll before she went downstairs. Just as Yun Jian turned around and was about to leave with her hand on the door lock, Snake Lizard's voice came from behind her again. "Sister Jian, the Ferrari sports car you sent for repair last time is fixed. It can be brought back to Longmen City tonight. I'll send it over for you tomorrow morning." Yun Jian paused before she turned to the side and hummed in response. The brakes of her Ferrari sports car had malfunctioned and it had been sent to the factory for repair. Due to her connection with the kosher mercenaries, the sports car was repaired at the fastest speed possible and sent back. Yun Jian's fiery red Ferrari was her favorite car that had accompanied her for years. If she could use this sports car to carry Qin Yiru to her wedding tomorrow, it would be the most gratifying thing for Yun Jian. "Send it over earlier tomorrow," Yun Jian said again before she opened the door to Snake Lizard's room and walked out. Snake Lizard did not follow her. When she saw Yun Jian leave the room, she said, "See you tomorrow," and closed the door again. Yun Jian tucked her hands into her pants pockets lazily and strolled out of the hotel. Just as she stepped out, the spring rain was still falling. Yun Jian took a whiff of the spring air and a tall man holding a black umbrella appeared beside her. Ce stood beside Yun Jian with a black umbrella. "Let's go home," Yun Jian said with a press of her lips as she walked down the stairs with Ce beside her. Ce asked softly, "Back to Xinjiang town?" "Amen." Yun Jian nodded and followed Ce to his Lamborghini sports car. Although Qin Yiru was getting married for the second time, she was still getting married. Most people would keep their second marriage a simple one as they would not want others to know about it. However, Qin Yiru still had to marry from Zhang Meihua's family to save face. Of course, this was also a local custom. It was impossible for Qin Yiru to marry from Dong Ruan's family when her mother, Zhang Meihua, was still alive, right? If she really did that, she would definitely be gossiped about in this day and age. Yun Jian had just fastened her seatbelt when she got into the car when she saw that Ce had not started the car. She frowned and was about to ask Ce why he had not started the car. Ce had already turned sideways and hugged Yun Jian. A familiar scent wafted into her nose and Yun Jian was stunned. However, she placed her hand on Ce's back and hugged him gently. His chin rested on her shoulder as his breath blew beside her ear. "Xiao Jian, you're moving away after your mom gets married?" Feeling one of the girl's plump breasts pressed against his chest, Ce moved closer and hugged her as he asked faintly. Chapter 1047. There was no way he was going to admit that ever since Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian got together and set a wedding date, they were planning to get married. He was not worried about Qin Yiru being unhappy. Being with Gu Junjian, Qin Yiru was destined to be happy. This was not even within the scope of his concern. Instead, he was worried that Qin Yiru would move to Gu Junjian's place and bring his Xiao Jian along. He had no objections to anything else, but bringing his Xiao Jian along was something he would not agree to. His Xiao Jian had to go to school and they did not have much time to see each other. If Yun Jian moved to Gu Junjian's place, how was he going to openly hug her to sleep? How was he going to see Xiao Jian every day? "You're coming too." Yun Jian curled her lips at Ce's words and spoke like she was joking. If Ce went with her, he would be no different from a live-in son-in-law. Yun Jian chuckled inwardly. She had never tried to embarrass the leader of the world's top assassin organization. She had never heard of anyone who could do so either. Today she was going to make a precedent. Sensing that the woman in his arms was secretly delighted, Ce did not expose her. Instead, he replied softly, "Okay." Of course he had to go. How dare she plot against him? How could he let her off so easily? As he thought about it, a naughty idea popped up in Ce's mind. In the end, Ce drove Yunjian back to Xinjiang town. Qin Yiru, Dong Ruan, Xiao Yunzhu, and the others were already in Xinjiang town. They would be busy the next morning, and there were things that had to be done early in the morning. Qin Yiru was getting married in Xinjiang town, so the day before the wedding, she had to stay in the town. However, Adam, Lan Su, and Mo Sen still lived in Dong Ruan's house. After all, Zhang Meihua's house, which was Qin Yiru's elder brother, Qin Liqian's house, did not have so many guest rooms. Ce drove the Lamborghini back to Zhang Meihua's house in Xinjiang town with Yun Jian, leaving behind potholes on the cement ground caused by the drizzle. From afar, he could see that Zhang Meihua's house was brightly lit, and there were many people standing in the house. After the car came to a stop, Ce got out of the car first. He took out the black umbrella, opened it, and walked over to Yun Jian's front passenger seat. He opened the car door and gently shielded Yun Jian from the roof. Then, he led Yun Jian into Zhang Meihua's home. There were many people standing in the house. Of course, the important figures whom Yun Jian had invited to attend the wedding in the name of kosher mercenaries were unaware that they were not present. They only knew that on May 21, 1999, at 5 in the evening, a grand wedding was held at Tranquil Harmony Hotel. At the moment, there were not only Dong Ruan and Xiao Yunzhu who were playing in Zhang Meihua's house, but there were also some relatives, friends, and neighbors who had come to collect their wedding gifts. Gu Junjian was not present as well. The bride and groom were not allowed to meet on the night before the wedding. This was a custom. "Oh, Yiru, I didn't expect you to get married again. Haha, your second marriage partner is a rich man too. You can even hold your wedding in a 4-star hotel. There aren't many daughters in our village who can get married like you. Isn't that so? Our Yiru is so blessed. Her daughter is the director of new crews and her husband is a high-ranking officer in the military." 2 female neighbors from the same village came over to express their goodwill and gave Qin Yiru 50 yuan as a wedding gift before speaking in a slightly jealous and envious tone. Amidst the jubilation, another woman standing not far away spoke to Qin Yiru in an even more jealous and obviously unhappy tone. Chapter 1048. The woman who spoke to Qin Yiru out of kindness but was actually very jealous was Yang Xiaochun, a neighbor who lived near Yun Gang's house when Qin Yiru and Yun Gang were still husband and wife. Yang Xiaochun was considered Qin Yiru's neighbor but they did not keep in touch after that. When Qin Yiru was down and out, Yang Xiaochun did not even bother with Qin Yiru. What about recently? Yang Xiaochun heard that Qin Yiru was getting married for the second time and that the other party was a soldier. She also heard that Qin Yiru's daughter had become the director of New Cruise. A rural woman like Yang Xiaochun had no idea what kind of company New Cruise was. It was precisely because she did not know about New Cruise. She had only heard that the company was impressive and was considered well known in Longmen City. Working in New Cruise also paid a lot. That was why Yang Xiaochun reluctantly gave Qin Yiru 20 yuan as a gift and wanted to get closer to Qin Yiru. There were always people in this world who thought that they were very close to you and wanted to give you a 20 yuan gift. After giving you the money, they would be good friends again. Yang Xiaochun was such a person. She did not like Qin Yiru at all in the past. There was even one time when Qin Yiru was cooking at home and there was no salt at home. Qin Yiru had gone to Yang Xiaochun's house to borrow some. Yang Xiaochun clearly had salt at home but she was stingy, thinking that Qin Yiru would not return the salt she borrowed in the future. So she lied and said that there was no salt at home. Qin Yiru had actually gone to borrow it when she saw that Yang Xiaochun's husband had just bought a pack of salt. It was just that Qin Yiru was too embarrassed to ask for it when Yang Xiaochun refused to give it to her. Since then, however, Qin Yiru had been planning to stay away from Yang Xiaochun. Qin Yiru did not expect Yang Xiaochun to come to her house today, and even give her a gift when she used to be so stingy. But in reality, 20 renminbi was considered a small amount even in the amount of money given in 1999. Generally speaking, only those old women who were so poor that they couldn't even afford to have enough food and clothing would give 20 yuan as a wedding gift for a family in the countryside. Qin Yiru did not like Yang Xiaochun to begin with. Now that Yang Xiaochun had given her a gift, she thought that she had the right to speak and even pointed fingers at Qin Yiru. The first reason Yang Xiaochun said that was jealousy. She was jealous that Qin Yiru's second marriage was more than 10 times better than other girls' marriages. No one in Xinjiang town could compare to Gu Yunjian's family background. Even in Longmen City, Gu Yunjian's family background was one of the best. Seeing that Qin Yiru was fiddling with the bridal headdress for tomorrow and ignoring her, Yang Xiaochun was indignant and said again, Yiru, we've been together for so long. Oh, Yiru, we've been neighbors for more than 10 years. Do you think I'd harm you? What are women most afraid of? What we're most afraid of is not marrying well and having a second marriage with a family after a divorce. It's uncertain if the man will treat you well in the future if you marry him. I think you're still the same as Hua in Xinjiang town last month. Didn't she just throw a simple banquet for her second marriage and let it pass just like that? Dong Wan had gone to the washroom and did not support Qin Yiru, so Yang Xiaochun could still spout so much nonsense. As she spoke, Yun Jian was already in front of Qin Yiru. Chapter 1049. Yun Jian's words hinted that Yang Xiaochun was just an outsider. What right did she have to criticize her family's affairs? There were plenty of gossipy women like Yang Xiaochun in the countryside. In the city, there were more people who wrapped themselves up like noblewomen and thought they were high and mighty like Hua Yun. In the past, the majority of the villagers were uncultured. Therefore they would say one thing in front of others, but when they turned a corner, they would stand behind others and point at them. This was a major phenomenon in the villages, and it was also one of the characteristics of the villages. Yang Xiaochun was just an ordinary rural woman. She felt that it was quite normal for her to criticize other people's family matters. However, when Yang Xiaochun heard Yun Jian's words, it sounded like Yun Jian was implying that she was meddling in other people's business, so Yang Xiaochun was displeased. You're Yiru's daughter, Yun Jian, aren't you? Who am I? I've been your mother's neighbor for at least a decade. I heard that you're the director of new cruise. You're so young, you must be something. But I've been there. Your mother is getting married for the second time and her second marriage is even grander than an innocent maiden's. This has never happened in Longmen City. I'm doing this for your mother's sake. You'll understand in the future that I'm doing this for your family's sake. Yang Xiaochun was extremely displeased by Yun Jian's words, but she held it in considering that Yun Jian was the director of new cruise and was said to have some status. Besides, you can't spend money like this even if you're rich. Unless you can have a wedding that can't be held in Longmen City, if you spend this money, it'll be your mother's second marriage. Who knows what people will say about it? When Yang Xiaochun saw that Yun Jian did not say anything, she thought that she had convinced Yun Jian. Feeling that what she said made more sense, Yang Xiaochun spoke with more vigor. Everyone was like that. Qin Yiru was getting married for the second time. If her wedding was unrivaled in Longmen City, the news would spread in the future. Qin Yiru's second marriage would be said to be a stroke of good fortune. Because this was a height that others couldn't reach, even if they were jealous. But tomorrow's wedding was just a meal at a 4-star hotel. Although it was a big deal, a lot of people would be jealous. Some people even felt that Qin Yiru's family had only made a little money, and they were already proud of it. These two concepts were completely different. Of course, Yang Xiaochun did not say this out of consideration for Qin Yiru. She was just jealous. She was jealous that Qin Yiru could find such a good man in her second marriage. If she really saw Qin Yiru get married tomorrow, she would definitely feel very uncomfortable in her heart. Moreover, Yang Xiaochun had said, unless you guys can arrange a wedding that no one in Longmen City can do. Yang Xiaochun was not the only one who did not believe that Qin Yiru could arrange such a wedding. Everyone present, including Qin Yiru herself, did not believe that it could be done. You don't have to worry about what others say. I really believe that you're thinking for my family now that you can leave this place. Yun Jian stood in front of CE, looking at Yang Xiaochun with her arms crossed and a slight scorn in her eyes. Everyone present could clearly hear the intention of sending them off between the lines. You! Yang Xiaochun's breath hitched at Yun Jian's words this time. She pointed at Yun Jian in exasperation and could not hold herself back from shouting. I'm thinking for your family. You actually... Great. Chapter 1050. With that, Yang Xiaochun stormed off in a huff. Just as she stepped out of Zhang Meihua's house, Yang Xiaochun muttered inwardly. I must pay back with interest when I go to a 4-star hotel for dinner tomorrow. Oh right, she would have to bring her husband and child along when the time came. Moreover, she had only paid 20 yuan as a share. It was definitely worth it for the three of them to dine in a 4-star hotel. After Yang Xiaochun left, there were a few women standing by the side. Although they were a little envious of Qin Yiru for marrying so well in her second marriage, it was only in their hearts. Their expressions and words were still blessings. Yiru, we don't like Yang Xiaochun in the first place. Don't stoop to her level. One of the women told Qin Yiru. As the woman spoke, she turned to Yun Jian, her gaze brimming with charm. Yiru is her daughter. Don't hold it against someone like that. It's not worth it if you hurt yourself for someone like that. As it turned out, after Yang Xiaochun left, the atmosphere took a turn for the better. Hey Yiru, is this your son-in-law? He's so handsome. I've never seen such a handsome young man in my life. As they chatted, the women shifted the topic to Yun Jian and Ce. The woman who knew how to charm just now was looking at Ce and fawning over Qin Yiru. Everything else aside, the woman was sincere in praising Ce's good looks. Qin Yiru was delighted to hear the woman's words. Since Ce and her daughter were already acting like this, Qin Yiru wanted to agree as well. However, Ce beat her to it and told the woman, Xiao Jian is mine. Ce's reply was swift, as if he was afraid that others would not know that Yun Jian was his. When the group of women and old ladies heard this, they all laughed happily and made fun of her. The night passed quickly. The next day arrived as promised. At 5 o'clock in the morning, Yun Jian had already gotten up when the sun had just risen. On the morning of May 21, 1999, the sun rose with a smile. Last night, it was still drizzling and the night breeze was chilly. On the morning of the 21st, the sky was completely clear. White clouds even appeared on the horizon in the morning, indicating that it was going to be a sunny day. Hurry up and prepare breakfast. After breakfast, we can prepare lunch to welcome the wedding team. Some neighbors came to help and started to get busy. Dinner was eaten in a 4-star hotel, but lunch was ordered in a large pot of rice. There were many customs for marriage in the countryside. For example, what time the dowry should be delivered to the groom's house, and what time the bride should be delivered to the groom's house. At this moment, in Qin Yiru's room, Yun Jian stood in front. Qin Yiru sat in front of a simple dressing table. There were a few women standing beside her. One of them was Yang Xiaochun from yesterday. Raccoon was squatting on the floor and organizing her makeup box that was several layers thick. She had yet to put on Qin Yiru's makeup. The makeup box was actually used by Raccoon to disguise people. Raccoon had a baby face, so she looked very young. She looked like she was only 15 despite being 25 years old. Watching Raccoon squatting on the floor and organizing the makeup box, Yang Xiaochun's untimely voice rang again. How old is this girl? Does she really know how to put on makeup? Watching Raccoon take out various items from the makeup box skillfully, Yang Xiaochun was reminded that she did not know anything, so she spoke sourly again. Chapter 1051. Despite what Yang Xiaochun had said yesterday, she did not plan to fall out with Qin Yiru and Yun Jian. After all, Qin Yiru was going to marry a rich man and Yun Jian was the director of new crews now. She dared not offend someone of such high status. Yang Xiaochun felt that everything she said was reasonable and she had a confidence that she did not know where it came from. She felt that she was right. More importantly, she felt that in the end, even Qin Yiru and Yun Jian would agree with her point of view and treat her differently. They might even see her as their savior. It was also this concept that made Yang Xiaochun even more firm in his beliefs. Because of this, Yang Xiaochun came here early in the morning. Half squatting on the ground, Tanuki fiddled with her makeup box sparsely. Listening to the incessant chatter, she resisted the urge to kill Yang Xiaochun and the group of chattering women and spoke to Yun Jian. Why are you here? Sister Jian, I need a quiet environment. Once Tanuki said that, Yun Jian knocked on the door casually and ordered Yang Xiaochun and the chattering women to leave. My mom needs makeup. Get out. She was not asking them to leave but ordering them to do so in a commanding tone. The chattering women, including Yang Xiaochun, were stunned by Yun Jian's firm tone. After all, girls were usually gentle and quiet. None of them were like Yun Jian, who would order people around the moment she opened her mouth. In spite of it, considering that Yun Jian was the director of new crews, she was different in certain matters. Thus, the women went down the stairs while chattering. Yang Xiaochun, on the other hand, was a typical blabbermouth among the rural women. Once she heard Yun Jian's imposing words and saw the other women around her walking down the stairs, she grumbled as she followed them down the stairs. "What's wrong with you? Oh my, what's with this person? It's a big day today." Forget that she didn't listen to me when I gave her some suggestions, she even chased us out. Hey! Say, Yiru's daughter has quite the temper. She's earning a lot now, but with her temper, who would dare to marry her in the future? Yang Xiaochun had left in a huff yesterday, so she did not hear Ce saying that Xiao Jian was mine. The women around her glanced at Yang Xiaochun from the corner of their eyes but did not respond to her. Inside the room, Qin Yiru, who was already dressed in her wedding gown, sat in front of the dressing table. Yun Jian told Tanuki before closing the door and going downstairs. Downstairs was already bustling with activity. Zhang Meihua wanted to please Yun Jian now, so she hired many old women to help with the wedding. Most of the people downstairs who came to help had already started eating breakfast. After breakfast, they busied themselves with lunch and sent the dowry to the groom's house first after the bridal escort team came over for lunch. Then they set a time to send the bride to the groom's house at 3:30 p.m. After the lively ceremony was over, they would send the bride, groom, and bride's relatives to Clear Rhythm Hotel at 4:30 p.m. for the wedding ceremony that night. This was the process of a village wedding in a big hotel. After breakfast, Yang Xiaochun sat on a stool to help peel potatoes. As she did so, she complained to the crowd around her. "I say, Yiru's daughter, the makeup artist she found for her is too young. What kind of makeup can a makeup artist like her do?" Yun Jian was standing not too far away. Just as Yang Xiaochun said that, someone pointed at the staircase noisily. "The bride is coming down." Yang Xiaochun looked over in disdain and happened to see Qin Yiru coming down the stairs. Chapter 1052. Qin Yiru was already in her 40s. She had spent her entire life worrying about Yun Jian and Yun Yi. In the first half of her life, she had to support the Yun family. Her youthful beauty had long turned into calluses and wrinkles on her hands, as well as a plump rural woman. However, ever since she divorced Yun Gang and escaped from the huge fire pit that was the Yun family, Qin Yiru had completely changed. Her originally yellowish skin, which was due to overwork, had also turned fair. More importantly, Qin Yiru had been going jogging in the park these days. Now that she no longer had a job, she was living a comfortable life. More importantly, she no longer had to work hard. When a person's body and mind were comfortable, their weight would naturally decrease. Qin Yiru's current weight and appearance were both quite good. In addition, Qin Yiru's facial features were very good, which Yun Jian had inherited from her. Therefore, there was also Raccoon's exquisite makeup skills. Qin Yiru, who came down from the stairs, had on natural makeup. That simple and elegant makeup made it seem as if she was born with it. At first glance, her snow-white wedding dress outlined her graceful waist that had recently lost weight. No matter from which angle one looked at her, she was so beautiful that one could not take their eyes off her. This makeup paired with the wedding dress made Qin Yiru, who came down from upstairs, look 20 years younger. This makeup did not look thick, but it was actually very delicate. This was Raccoon's ability. She could cover up a person's makeup, but she could also make the person look younger by a few decades after the makeup. Raccoon could even disguise a person as another person. With just this bit of makeup, it was not difficult for her at all. However, after Qin Yiru put on the makeup, she did not look old at all, even when she stood next to Yun Jian. Therefore, when the people downstairs saw Qin Yiru, they all shouted in surprise. At this moment, Yang Xiaochun, who had been complaining to the people around her about how good Qin Yiru's makeup could be, stood there in a daze. On the other end, Qin Yiru slowly held onto the railing of the staircase and lifted the hem of her white wedding dress as she walked down. She was all smiles, but just by looking at her face, she really looked like a young lady in her 20s. It was no exaggeration to say that this makeup made Qin Yiru look 20 years younger. Oh my God! Was this really Yiru? This was simply 20 years younger. The group of gossipy women who were standing there were all dumbfounded. They stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. It wasn't that they were ignorant, But the impact of this makeup was too great. There wasn't a single person present who wasn't shocked. Among them, the one with the worst expression was Yang Xiaochun, because before this, she had been criticizing Raccoon's makeup skills. What about now? Qin Yiru's makeup was probably second to none in the entire Longmen City, Zhe province, or even the entire country, who was as skilled as Raccoon. It was then that Yun Jian walked to Qin Yiru. She carefully helped Qin Yiru's hand up and pulled Qin Yiru downstairs. Mom, I'll get breakfast for you. Take a seat first. Yun Jian had already pulled Qin Yiru to the dining table. Just as they reached the table, a young man from the same village who came to help suddenly rushed in. The young man ran in, panting. Before he could finish his breath, he pointed in the direction of the door and shouted in horror, "The door! The entire road from the door to the groom's house is covered with a red carpet. From the beginning to the end. Who did this? What?" Everyone present was dumbfounded when they heard the young man's words. When ordinary families got married, the most they would do was to lay out a red carpet in the church. While red carpets were not the most expensive, it was still a huge expense to lay out more. In the end, the entire road from the door to the groom's house was covered with a red carpet. The groom's house was in Longmen City. It was a long distance from Xinjiang town. Everyone present was so scared that their faces froze. Chapter 1053. The group's attention was drawn to the melodious female voice, only to see Yun Jian with her arms crossed in front of her with a smirk, looking at everyone in front of her openly. When they saw that the melodious voice came from Yun Jian, everyone was shocked and terrified. When they snapped out of it, they suppressed their fear on the surface, but their hearts were in turmoil. What did the young man say? He said that it would start from Zhang Meihua's house, which was Xinjiang town, and end at Gu Yunjian's house in Longmen City. The distance should be at least 30 to 40 kilometers. 30 to 40 kilometers. 1 kilometer was 1,000 meters. A distance of 30 to 40 kilometers was covered with red carpets. How many red carpets would be used to pave the entire road? Just how much RMB would it take to achieve such a feat? It was unheard of in the entire Longmen City, Zhe province, or even the entire country. Especially in 1999, it was already considered respectable if people could afford 2 wedding cars in this era, especially if they were from a common brand. It was grand enough. As for laying out a red carpet that was 3 to 4 kilometers from the bride's house to the groom's house, those present had never heard of it. Even if they had thought of it, they would not dare to imagine it. How much would it cost? How much manpower would it take? Everyone present, including the gossipy women, Yang Xiaochun, Zhang Meihua, Qin Liqian's family, and many others who came to help, stared at the scene unfolding before them with widened eyes. Yun Jian took 2 steps toward the young man who had barged in with a roar just now. She wore a bright smile with a slight curl of her lips. Her face without any makeup was delicate and beautiful. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and said faintly, "Don't make a fuss. I got someone to pave it." Yang Xiaochun paled even more after Yun Jian spoke. Yang Xiaochun did not expect Yun Jian to be so rich. Was her new cruise really that profitable? Yang Xiaochun did not know that New Cruise was a company that sold cars. She merely thought that Yun Jian had started a small company. Yang Xiaochun's face was pale. She was jealous that Yun Jian could take out so much money. Therefore, as soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, Yang Xiaochun immediately said, How much will this cost? Even the rich don't have such extravagance." At this moment, the entire place was silent. Obviously, everyone was shocked by what Yun Jian had done. Even Qin Yiru was dumbfounded. At the same time, she stared blankly at the scene in front of her. However, Yang Xiaochun's words implied that Yun Jian had no money but pretended to be rich. Such a sentence stunned the surrounding people once again. There were even some people who couldn't stand it anymore, so they stood up and said to Yang Xiaochun, "You talk too much. Other people's family matters are none of your business. What are you saying? Today is such a happy day, and you're the only one who talks too much." That person had just reprimanded Yang Xiaochun. Yun Jian continued speaking, but Yun Jian ignored Yang Xiaochun completely. She only turned her gaze to Qin Yiru. "Mom, you used to work hard for me and my brother, shouldering all the burdens yourself. Now that I'm all grown up, I won't be as insensible as before. Today's red carpet is my first wedding gift to you. You'll always be my mom. Yun Jian's words were for the original owner of the body as well as for herself. Ever since she was reborn, Qin Yiru had never vented her bitterness in front of her. Qin Yiru had always kept the bitterness to herself and left the best for her children. Chapter 1054. Yun Jian ignored Yang Xiaochun. As long as Yang Xiaochun did not cross her bottom line, there was no need for her to care about a job-hopping clown. Why? It was too degrading. There was no need for that. Who would waste so much time arguing with a person like Yang Xiaochun and spouting nonsense? Yun Jian did not have to do that. In spite of it, what Yun Jian said to Qin Yiru was from the bottom of her heart. She had wanted to say these words to Qin Yiru for a long time. You'll always be my mom might sound like nothing to ordinary people, but to Yun Jian, it meant something entirely different. In her previous life, she had no family, friendship, or love. She only knew who she could benefit from working with, like snake, lizard and tiger, leopard. They were old friends of hers. In spite of it, Yun Jian had kept her bottom line even when snake, lizard and tiger, leopard knew a lot of her secrets. She did not have a heart back then. After her rebirth, be it Qin Yiru or Yun Yi, both of them had taught her something. It was family. Now she knew what kinship was all about. Xiao Jian. Qin Yiru could not help shuddering when she heard what Yun Jian said. She had hidden all the hardships she had suffered all these years in her heart, trying to leave the best for her daughter and son. Qin Yiru was not a god. Neither was she a remarkable person. She was just an ordinary village woman, an ordinary person who could not be more ordinary. Xiao Jian, you child, why are you speaking so maturely? Qin Yiru stuttered as she recalled the past. She felt a lump in her throat, but she swallowed it quickly. Mom. Yun Jian came over and lifted Qin Yiru's face gently, wiping away Qin Yiru's tears that were about to fall from Qin Yiru's eyes. Mom is the prettiest woman today. Yun Jian said with a knowing smile. Look, you're 20 years younger now. Yun Jian's words made Qin Yiru smile through her tears. You child. You're real. As she spoke, she was slowly comforted. Seeing that Qin Yiru was comforted, Yang Xiaochun pulled a long face again. That was right. She could not stand Qin Yiru's good behavior. Pretending when you're not capable. Yiru, I'm not criticizing your family. I just think that your daughter doesn't know how to manage the family. If she spends like this, she'll spend all her family's wealth. Yang Xiaochun pretended to be innocent even though she had taken advantage of the situation. She had said that Yun Jian liked rich people who pretended to be rich, but she still pretended that she was thinking for Qin Yiru's family. There were many people like her in real life. However, just as Yang Xiaochun finished speaking, someone outside the door led a few people into the house. They're here. The loading team from the groom's house is here. Someone called out and brought a few tall and burly men into the house. The loading team here referred to the team that drove the truck to load the bride's dowry to the groom's house. It was not the same as the wedding car that drove the bride to the groom's house. The bridal team is here too. Look, that's... What brand of wedding car is that? Another voice came from the door. Yun Jian raised a brow. Just as she thought of that, the person standing at the door exclaimed, 2? 3. No, 4? 5, 6? 18? 18 wedding cars? I'm not seeing things, am I? The car at the front, if I'm not mistaken, is it a Rolls-Royce? Chapter 1055. Those standing at the door were burly men who had come to help. These men who Gu Junjian had sent to pack the dowry were brothers from the military. They had already entered the house. The men who were discussing outside the house were from the same village who had come to help. These men liked to read the newspaper while smoking a cigarette after they were done with work. They did not have any outstanding talents, but they read a lot of newspapers. Sometimes, they could even see various branded cars printed in the newspaper. As for cars like Rolls-Royce and supercars, these men had seen them in the newspapers, but they had never seen a real car. Therefore, they did not recognize it at first glance. 1999. What era was this? It was an era where the economy was still developing. It was an era where some people could only send the bride to the groom's house with motorcycles. When rich people got married, they would hire 2 wedding cars, especially small cars like Volkswagen and Santana, which were affordable. However, there were very few people who could afford such cars in 1999. Those who were poor would either drive motorcycles or tractors to send the bride to her wedding. This was not too bad. Those who were really poor could not even afford motorcycles and tractors, so they registered a marriage certificate. Since they could not afford a banquet, they would drag it on until their children grew up and saved enough money before holding a banquet. Therefore, there were 18 wedding cars with a Rolls-Royce at the front and a string of supercars at the back. The men who had come to help at the door were so shocked that they dropped their cigarettes to the floor. 18 wedding cars. This was shocking. 18 wedding cars. Other than the Rolls-Royce at the front, there were 17 supercars at the back. Such a lineup in 1999 would not be as simple as being surprised and impressed by the other party's wealth. This was going to scare the hell out of people. The men who were talking at the door were so shocked that their hearts were about to stop breathing. Yun Jian and the others who were standing in the house heard the commotion outside. Xiao Jian, this is? What's this? Qin Yiru tugged at Yun Jian's hand. She looked stunning with makeup on. Yiru, what's wrong? Qin Yiru had just held Yun Jian's hand and asked when Dong Ruan's voice came from upstairs. Qin Yiru had just had her makeup done when Dong Ruan rushed over from Longmen City. She then went up to let the civet do its makeup as well. Dong Ruan was the main bridesmaid today. According to the customs of the village, the bridesmaid should be an unmarried woman. However, it was Qin Yiru's idea to let Dong Ruan be the main bridesmaid. As soon as Dong Ruan appeared, her enchanting face was put on makeup by a raccoon. Just like Qin Yiru, her age was reduced by 20 years. Everyone present was shocked once again. This also showed that Raccoon's makeup skills were superb. Mom, they are probably here. I'll go and take a look. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, then patted Qin Yiru's hand and went out of the house. Seeing that Yun Jian had gone out, Yang Xiaochun and the other women, as well as many of the people present, scrambled to follow. At this moment, everyone walked out of the house and saw 18 decorated wedding cars parked at the entrance. These cars were brands that no one present had ever heard of. Hearing the men's exclamations outside the door just now, the women did not know what was so surprising about these cars. Yang Xiaochun went up to the men and asked, "What were you guys yelling about just now?" With so many cars, it was indeed very grand. These cars looked quite beautiful, but couldn't they be borrowed? What's there to be surprised about? In fact, Yang Xiaochun was already making a fuss in his heart. Chapter 1056. It was not a joke that there was not a single Rolls-Royce in the entire Longmen City. The year 1999 was an era where economic development was about to soar. In this era, the gap between the rich and the poor was gradually widening. In spite of this, Longmen City was still in a state of subsistence. In other words, there were not many people who were truly rich, and those who were rich did not have to spend all their wealth to buy a luxurious car like the Rolls-Royce that cost 4 to 5 million yuan. Therefore, there was not a single Rolls-Royce in the entire Longmen City. What did it mean when it appeared at Qin Yiru's wedding today? What? This car? This car is so rare? It costs 5 million yuan? Yang Xiaochun was indeed shocked. Her eyes widened in surprise, but in the end, she still took a deep breath. Even if there was none in Longmen City, it did not mean that Yun Jian had bought it. Could she afford a Rolls-Royce worth 5 million yuan? Moreover, when newlyweds were getting married, wedding cars were usually rented from car dealers. Ordinary families would borrow cars from people in the same village or their relatives or friends who owned cars. After the wedding, they would give a big red packet to their friends and relatives who had lent the car to them or people from the same village. Yang Xiaochun naively thought that the Rolls-Royce was rented by Yun Jian. But I think this car was rented from somewhere else? It costs 5 million yuan. How could she afford it? Yang Xiaochun grumbled inwardly. Just as she finished speaking, the burly man beside her glanced askance at Yang Xiaochun like he was looking at an ignorant and illiterate person. Rolls-Royce. Where did you rent it from? There are so many rich people in Longmen City, but we don't even have one. There was a pause before he continued. Besides, didn't Qin Yiru's daughter start New Cruise? Are you stupid? The company she owned, New Cruise, was a company that sold cars. It earned tens of millions of yuan in profit every year. She can earn so much in a year by selling cars in her own company. She can buy it herself. It's nothing. The burly man's words hit Yang Xiaochun right where her heart was. Yang Xiaochun thought that Yun Jian's new cruise was a small company at most. However, never in her wildest dreams would she have thought that Yun Jian's new cruise was a car seller. Annual profits of at least tens of millions? Was this a joke? A company like this could be ranked in the entire Longmen city. No, in the entire Zhe province. Oh my god. Why did she talk to Yun Jian like that before? Yang Xiaochun was filled with regret. Just as Yang Xiaochun was filled with regret, Ce got out of the black Lamborghini sports car. His tall and handsome figure attracted the attention of countless girls and women. However, his eyes were fixed on Yun Jian the whole time as he walked towards her. After Ce got out of the car, 4 figures got out of the Rolls-Royce and the other 3 limited edition sports cars. The 4 of them were so handsome that they could make anyone cry. All the men present deeply doubted their own appearance. These 4 people were the 4 leaders of Anhun. Adam, Mo Sen, Shui Ying, Lin Wei. Today, the 4 leaders of Anhun were escorting Qin Yiru to the groom's house, Gu Yunjian's house. There had never been such a grand procession since ancient times. Ce had already come to Yun Jian under everyone's watchful eyes. Just as everyone thought that Ce would show off his sports car in front of everyone like many young lads of his age, Ce stood before Ce. Ce went to stand in front of Yun Jian and slowly held her hand. In front of everyone he spoke in his rich male voice. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Chapter 1057. Ce was different from the usual guys. If he were a normal guy, he would probably be standing in front of the crowd to show off these 18 luxury cars proudly. His bragging would probably reach the heavens. Any youth in their adolescence or in their 20s would have a competitive mentality. Some young guys would even think that they had hit the jackpot and flaunt their prowess in front of the older generation, as if they were part of the new generation's fashion trend. The more handsome a person was, the more pretentious they were. Ce, however, was the complete opposite. There were so many sports cars parked behind him and he was the one who drove them here, but he had no intention of showing off. Instead, he went to Yun Jian and spoke with such sincerity that it stirred her heart. There wasn't the slightest bit of sweet talk in these words, but it was enough to let everyone present feel his heart. His feelings for Yun Jian. Yun Jian's hand was gently held by Ce and her heart fluttered when she heard his words. Yun Jian did not act pretentiously in front of everyone. Looking at Ce, she finally nodded in agreement. It was undeniable that Yun Jian was tempted. Good. Haha. Adam, who was here to spoil the mood, suddenly clapped his hands and cheered at this crucial moment. However, before Adam could finish his words, Mo Sen, who was beside him, raised his hand and knocked on his head. The corners of Adam's lips twitched before he shut his mouth. Adam had fully recovered from his injuries and Lan Su did not need to support him anymore. Adam clapped his hands because he was excited just now. Their young master was planning to marry a young mistress. This was great. Anhun Group had a successor. However, Adam had no idea how much he had spoiled the mood with his action just now. Mo Sen could not be blamed for giving Adam a head-on blow. No one saw how pale Yang Xiaochun's face was at this moment. She had thought that Yun Jian was just the boss of a small company. After all, it was already an impressive feat for an underage girl to be the boss of a small company in this day and age. If Yun Jian was only the boss of a small company, she could only stand out among her peers and could not compare to the big bosses of Longmen City. However, she had just found out that Yun Jian's company was actually one of the top companies in Zhe province. More importantly, the Rolls-Royce that cost 5 million was actually Yun Jian's. Most importantly, at this moment, there was such an outstanding man who used a method that all women in the world would be envious of to confess to her in front of everyone. Yang Xiaochun also admitted that he was jealous. The bride is out. The bride is coming out. Just as Yang Xiaochun was clenching his fists in jealousy, someone shouted excitedly. Qin Yiru heard the noise outside, so she just came out to take a look. After all, it was not time to send the bride off yet. It was still morning and the dowry had yet to be packed and sent to the groom's house. The time to send the bride off was later than when the dowry was packed and sent to the groom's house. It was currently set to be 3:30 p.m. What's wrong, Xiaojian? Qin Yiru had just come out with Dong Wan when she widened her eyes at the rows of super sports cars in front of her. Other than the first one, the rest are rented. Yiru, your daughter's really capable. Yang Xiaochun said sourly to the girl. Indignant again. Chapter 1058. Out of the 18 wedding cars, one was a Rolls-Royce while the other 17 were supercars. All 18 of them were Yun Jian's dowry to Qin Yiru. This was the dowry that this girl who was not even 18 had given to her mother. Everyone present was stunned. At this moment, it was as if a huge wave had struck their hearts, and they were filled with terror. It was just a Rolls-Royce, but it cost no less than 5 million Chinese yuan. 5 million Chinese yuan. To the people in 1999, in an era where wages were not high, such a dowry was rare even in the whole of country Z, let alone Longmen City. Even those rich and powerful families would not be able to do this. All of this was done by an underage girl who was not even 18 yet. Yang Xiaochun was indignant just now. That was why she had told Qin Yiru in such a tone that other than the first Rolls-Royce being Yun Jian's, the rest were rented. In spite of it, Yang Xiaochun had no idea how she had gotten her hands on the Rolls-Royce and the other supercars. It was just her jealousy that made her say what she did just now. Yun Jian's words came after she had spoken. This feeling was as if her mask had been pierced right in front of her face, making Yang Xiaochun lose all face in front of the crowd. As a result, Yang Xiaochun's complexion instantly paled. Her complexion was terrifyingly pale. What? Xiao Jian. What are you talking about? These cars. Qin Yiru was from a village after all. Although she had gradually accepted the fact that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director, the scene before her still frightened her. Mom, these are just a part of it. Yun Jian moved her hand away from Si Yi's and placed it gently on Qin Yiru's shoulder before looking at Qin Yiru and telling her seriously. She paused and added, you don't have to care about the rest. You just need to know that you're the most beautiful bride in the world today. Yun Jian knew what Qin Yiru was going to say. There were so many luxury cars and supercars. Qin Yiru must be worried that Yun Jian had used New Cruise's funds and that Yun Jian would put New Cruise in a dilemma just to make herself look good. Mothers would always think about their children's future, but sometimes children couldn't think about their own mothers. In spite of it, when Qin Yiru saw her daughter being so considerate of her, she was instantly embraced by the love of kinship. She was truly comforted. Ha! Why are there 2 wedding cars coming from that direction? These cars. What brand are they? Why haven't I seen them before? Someone suddenly pointed into the distance and asked. Everyone's gaze turned to the direction the person was pointing at. 2 sports cars that were even more luxurious than the supercars were slowly making their way over from the corner. Mom, there are a total of 20 wedding cars today. Of the 2 cars behind, the red one is mine. You're getting married today, so I hope you can sit in my car and get married in style. Yun Jian turned to Qin Yiru and said with a smirk, a beautiful glint flashing in her eyes. Just as she said that, the men around them recognized the 2 sports cars that drove in later. That's the flagship limited edition Ferrari LaFerrari. There are only 3 of them in the world. Chapter 1059. These burly men were all from the countryside, but they had seen many reports about famous cars in the newspapers. Men usually loved toys like toy guns and racing cars when they were young, and they loved sports cars when they grew up. Therefore, when the burly men saw the Ferrari and Lamborghini limited edition sports cars slowly driving in, they were so scared that their eyeballs almost popped out. Yun Jian and Si Yi's cars did not make an appearance earlier because the previous 18 cars were Yun Jian's dowry for her mother, Qin Yiru. As for the 2 limited edition sports cars that came later, they belonged to Yun Jian and Si Yi. Yun Jian had been planning this for a long time. She planned to send Qin Yiru off to her wedding with her beloved cars that had been with her for 2 lifetimes in a grand manner. The few big men knew that the Ferrari and Lamborghini were expensive, but some of the women around them didn't know at all. From the outside, these 2 sports cars were indeed much better looking than the previous 18 cars. However, what was a limited edition flagship? They did not understand. Hey, what do you mean by a limited edition flagship? What's this about only being sold in the world? Yang Xiaochun went to one of the men to ask since she did not understand. She had taken too many blows, but she did not believe that Yun Jian could give her another round of blows. Yang Xiaochun was only a village woman. She did not know much and had probably only been to Longmen City once or twice in her life. The number of times she had been there could not be more than that on one hand. In addition, she had stayed in Xinjiang town for so long and had nowhere to ask. How could she possibly know what a limited edition flagship was? Oh my! You don't even know what a limited edition is. The man glanced at Yang Xiaochun like she was a country bumpkin and said. He paused again before he began to explain slowly. A limited edition product. The manufacturer only sells a few of the same product. Look at that Ferrari sports car. There are only 3 of them in the world. And that Lamborghini, there's only one in the world. How can a car like this not be expensive? It's priceless. You can't buy it even if you have money. Only those with power and influence can get it. When the burly man said this, his expression was already quite excited. However, the man's excited expression only made Yang Xiaochun's face turn paler and paler. What do you mean there are only 3 in the world? Only one? Isn't this a priceless treasure? Moreover, only people with power and influence could buy it. Some people couldn't even get such a limited edition item even if they had the money. When Yang Xiaochun heard the burly man's words, he almost fainted from fright. Amidst the hubbub around them, Yun Jian carefully held Qin Yiru's hand and walked into the house. As for Yun Jian's request, Qin Yiru naturally agreed. Xinjiang town. Yun Gang's house. What kind of sin have I committed? Gamble, 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 all you know is to gamble. You. Lu Lanhua pointed at Yun Gang, who had just returned from the casino and was once again in debt. She was so angry that blood almost rushed to her head. Ever since Yun Gang divorced Qin Yiru, he had been completely dispirited. Last time, he was caught by the casino and was threatened to cripple him if he didn't return the money. He even implicated Yun Zheng. Later, it was Yun Jian who stepped in to protect Yun Zheng and left Yun Gang to his own devices. Yun Gang was lucky enough to escape, but he gambled again. This time, Lu Lanhua was so angry that she almost vomited blood. As the original owner's grandmother, Lu Lanhua often scolded Qin Yiru, saying what was wrong with a man cheating and what was wrong with a man gambling. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.